Chapter 759. Mo Ting was wrong. He had completely underestimated how shameless Baiyu could be. Baiyu is definitely shameless enough to look for Huang Fushua. After all, she didn't think that exposing this matter would benefit Huang Fushua in any way. For the sake of mutual benefit, after careful consideration, she asked her manager to find out where Huang Fushua was living. Afterwards, she geared up and headed over to Huang Fushua's home, while she had nothing to do in the morning. But, to her surprise, Huang Fushua was living all by himself in a 300-square-meter villa. Back when they were still together, Huang Fushua was still a nobody.
Who would have thought he was now so rich?
Huang Fushua also didn't expect Baiyu to show up. So, as soon as he opened the door and saw her, a look of surprise flashed across his face. Seeing this, Baiyu removed her sunglasses and smiled at Huang Fushua. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Huang Fushua stepped aside to let her in. He then followed behind Baiyu and said, "There's nothing at home, just plain water." "It doesn't matter. That's not why I'm here." Baiyu elegantly sat down on the sofa. Huang Fushua sneered. Mo Ting's method was indeed effective. Previously, he had done so many useless things, but he had failed to attract Baiyu's attention. Who would have thought, after taking on the forensic concubine, this woman would anxiously come knocking on his door? "Why are you looking for me? It can't be that you're here to catch up, right?" Huang Fushua sat down on the sofa opposite Baiyu and placed his hands behind his back. He looked extremely relaxed. "I never thought that after so many years, you would be able to afford such a nice place." "Are you talking about this house?" Huang Fushua chuckled and replied, "I've lived in this house for more than 20 years.
Oh, I see.
I didn't even have the chance to introduce my family to you before you heartlessly abandoned me. I think if you knew who my father was, you wouldn't have left so decisively, right?" "What do you mean?" "Huang Fuxiong, the vice president of Tiffany Co.'s Asia region, is my father." Huang Fushua formally introduced himself to Baiyu. "It was only after you abandoned me that I realized that being a rich second-generation heir wasn't that bad." After hearing this, Baiyu's expression did not look too good. "My father has wanted to meet you for a long time because he has been laughing at me for many years. How could my foresight be so bad back then? It's all thanks to you that he didn't lose a single cent and allowed his son to return to his side." Baiyu was indeed a little disappointed, but she knew that Huang Fushua already hated her. So, she decided not to think too much about it. Instead, she changed the subject. "Let's get back to business. I heard you accepted the role of male lead in The Forensic Concubine." Huang Fushua did not reply. He simply raised his eyebrows, waiting to hear what Baiyu had to say next. "You still care about me, right? Otherwise, why would you join the enemy camp even though you knew I was competing with Tongning?" After hearing this, Huang Fushua immediately laughed out loud. "Miss Bai, aren't you overthinking things? Yes, part of the reason I acted in The Forensic Concubine was because of you, but I just want you to remember what you've done in the past and what kind of person you are. When are you going to remove your mask?" "You... By the way, aren't you well aware why I acted in The Forensic Concubine? According to Tongning's acting, Hai Rui's capabilities, and the quality of the script, why would I reject such a valuable offer?" Huang Fushua questioned Baiyu. "I don't care why you acted in The Forensic Concubine. I simply want to tell you that exposing our relationship in the past will not do either of us any good." Baiyu's aura weakened. As she spoke, she sounded a little angry from embarrassment. This was completely different from what she expected. She was here to show off. She was here to flaunt her power. She was here to be pitiful. Who would have thought Huang Fushua did not give her what she wanted? Instead, she found out about Huang Fushua's illustrious family background. This made her feel extremely regretful. This made her feel extremely frustrated, and she wished she could immediately find a hole to bury herself in. "Have you finally told me why you're here?" Huang Fushua suddenly laughed. "You must be dreaming. As the almighty prince of the jewelry industry, I don't want to have anything to do with a two-faced person like you. I think it would lower my status. Baiyu, when it comes to family background, you can't even compare to a single person that you view as an enemy. I don't know where you get your sense of superiority from. How dare you compare yourself to Tongning, international best actress? Just you wait and see how Tongning defeats you. By the way, I won't expose your past scandals, but it doesn't mean I won't remove your mask of hypocrisy.
Take care.
After speaking, Huang Fushua stood up from the sofa and crossed his arms. The door is right in front of you. I won't be seeing you out. Baiyu's expression was extremely ugly. She didn't gain any advantage from Huang Fushua. In the end, she clenched her handbag and stood up angrily. However, she simply said to Huang Fushua's back, "With your acting skills, Tongning will never surpass me." Huang Fushua did not turn around. He simply shrugged his shoulders. It didn't matter. After all, he wasn't the male lead. Baiyu had no choice but to leave Huang Fushua's home. She was so angry that she was about to explode, but she couldn't think of a way to deal with Huang Fushua. Should she find someone to slander Huang Fushua? Sorry, he had already slandered himself enough. This little bit of slander was nothing to him. That was why it was said that people couldn't maintain a perfect appearance, because people with flaws were easier to forgive. However, when a perfect person made a mistake, it would only attract countless curses. It would forever be a black mark that couldn't be erased. After this incident, Huang Fushua was truly satisfied, because he had finally seen the complete Baiyu. Of course, the most satisfying thing was Baiyu's anger and shame, as well as the flash of regret in her eyes when she heard about his family background. Baiyu was annoyed. In order to find a sense of balance, she needed to hurry home and see her husband. Only then would she feel that she had made the right choice. However, her husband wasn't home, and he didn't pick up his phone. Baiyu sat on the sofa and waited for a long time. After about 2 hours, she finally heard her husband and Bai Linlin laughing outside the door. "Wifey, why are you home?" As soon as Bai Linlin saw Baiyu sitting on the sofa, she immediately put on a serious expression and greeted her timidly. "How did the two of you end up together?" "We bumped into each other outside," Bai Linlin replied angrily before she returned to her room. Baiyu did not notice anything amiss, so she did not dare to tell her husband that she was going to see Huang Fushua. So, she simply hung around for a while before she returned to the set. But, to everyone's surprise, as soon as she left, the couple that were still at home exchanged glances and soon rolled onto the same bed. Chapter 760. Huang Fushua had always been rumored to be the male lead of The Forensic Concubine. Of course, he was more than happy to be the scapegoat. After all, the production crew had no intention of announcing the male lead and kept the entire shoot to a private location. Hairue had a few film studios under them, so this wasn't difficult to achieve. So, without any official announcements or events, Huang Fushua naturally took on the role of promoting The Forensic Concubine. After taking on the role, he did not change the fact that he was surrounded by beautiful women. Filming was filming and life was life. He never mixed it up. Plus, he had recently dealt a blow to Baiyu, so he was in an extremely good mood. So, whenever the reporters interviewed him, he would mention The Forensic Concubine to fulfill his responsibility as an actor and to repay Mo Ting for giving him the opportunity to humiliate Baiyu. Actually, it had already been a month since he was announced to be on set, but even he had not seen the male lead. Because for the first few days, he had been filming for supporting roles. Tongning had not officially joined the cast yet. Perhaps it was because of the 2 kids that she had not made the necessary arrangements yet. Huang Fushua did not mind. After all, he liked his role as the second male lead and liked his costume even more. Donning a silver dragon embroidered robe and a jade crown on his head, he looked powerful and domineering with an imposing aura. Compared to the male lead, his character was a lot more relaxed. He didn't have as many complicated schemes and worries. On one hand, he had to admire the female lead and not let her see through him. On the other hand, he had to scheme to protect his empire. A person like this, living in real life, must be tiring. Actually, 2 days before Tongning joined the cast, she tried to test Mo Ting. But Mo Ting did not show any signs of abnormality. He simply went to work as usual and took care of the babies. He was really too calm and collected. As this is our own production team, we can make flexible arrangements. So, you can go home at night, and the two mothers can take care of the babies during the day, Mo Ting instructed. If you're too tired and want to sleep in the hotel, give me a call, and I'll make arrangements. That's right, Mo Ting instructed. Are you sure you don't have anything to say to me? Tongning asked one last time. Do I? Mo Ting lowered his head and continued to help her pack her luggage. This time, the set will be completely sealed off. During filming, the set will be cleared out and the extras will sign a confidentiality agreement. So, you don't need to worry about anything. With you here, what do I have to worry about? Tongning was a little discouraged. Don't think too much. Hurry up and check on the baby. Go to sleep and rest. Tongning nodded her head. After quickly washing up, she returned to her bedroom. As she had to wake up early, she didn't want to waste any more time in case she felt tired. But, after she fell asleep, Mo Ting headed straight for the studio that Hai Rui had prepared. President, everything has been arranged. Lu Che and the rest of the staff were ready, especially the makeup artist and cameraman. They were all ready to go. Put on your makeup. Mo Ting sat down in front of the vanity mirror. President Mo is so good-looking. This was the first time the makeup artist had been in such close contact with Mo Ting. As soon as she saw his handsome face, not only was she shy, she couldn't help but praise him. Dear job well, Mo Ting instructed coldly. The makeup artist nodded her head and quickly placed the white jade crown on Mo Ting's head. With the addition of the silver armor, the domineering aura of a king was enough to stun everyone present. In fact, the cameraman forgot he was still holding onto his camera as he dropped it onto the ground and smashed it into the back of his foot. As expected, when the president makes a move, no other actors in Beijing have anything to do. Lu Che nodded his head in satisfaction. This military uniform was for the female lead to bravely kill enemies on the battlefield. Women were most infatuated with men when they were heroic like this, especially a man like Mo Ting, who was born with the aura of a king. If he was born in ancient times, his appearance would definitely cause chaos. Handsome. He is so handsome. His side profile, his lips, his nose bridge, and his eyebrows. I feel like I've been shocked by electricity. Tonight, they were only shooting promotional photos, but the photographer couldn't stop himself. When it came to beautiful things, people couldn't help but want to look at them for as long as possible. Afterwards, Mo Ting changed into a dragon robe. A few of the staff hiding in the dark were extremely excited. Oh God, how can there be a man like President Mo in this world that is born with an aura of abstinence? As soon as he puts on this dragon robe, all I want is to be his concubine. Damn, I can't even share a photo of such a handsome man. What a shame. Hey, when the photos are released, all the men in Beijing will realize the difference between us. That's right, that's right. Oh God, I'm so excited. I wonder if Tongning has seen it. Of course, Tongning hadn't seen it. At this time, she was sleeping soundly at home. The next morning, Mo Ting woke up at home. It was like he had forgotten everything that happened on set the night before. After tidying up, he escorted Tongning to the set. If you miss me, give me a call. Just like before, Mo Ting carefully reminded Tongning and made arrangements for everything on set before he turned and left. Director Chen Feng received the photos early in the morning. At that time, he was also shocked. However, Mo Ting didn't want to reveal it, so he decided to keep it a secret. All the answers would be revealed in the future. Director Chen, where's our male lead? When will he be joining the set? One of the supporting actors asked. Even Tongning is here. How big of a name is this male lead? Due to his current schedule, he can't join the set yet. He will first film the supporting actor scenes. There won't be any delays, Director Chen Feng comforted. Okay, it's good that Tongning is here. But we haven't seen Tongning in an ancient costume yet. The spoilers for Concubine Ning are almost done. The fans are praising Bai Yu like she's unique. Am I the only one who's mistaken? Why do I feel like someone has been in the US for so long that their appearance doesn't match up? You will see it in the future, Chen Feng laughed. Actually, Tongning's looks made her look even more ancient. She was tall, graceful, and exuded a peaceful aura. So, the production crew had a lot of confidence in her. As long as she was dressed up properly, she could easily make Bai feel inferior. On the afternoon that Tongning joined the set, the makeup artist began to make some adjustments to her appearance. Afterwards, Tongning spent the entire afternoon in the waiting room. Tongning's appearance was split into 3 stages. First, she was the cold concubine of a late emperor. Second, she was the dignified Empress Dowager. And finally, she was the more feminine imperial concubine. The stylist and makeup artist had been inspired by concubine Ning, so they spent a lot of time and effort on Tongning's appearance. Of course, whether it was as a model or an actress, Tongning would never disappoint. The first thing she tried on was the simple and elegant look of the cold concubine. As the stylist finished adjusting her plain dress, the people in the waiting room were stunned. Tongning could be drawn straight into a painting. Chapter 761. She looked like she had come from a painting. There were many different styles of hair accessories in ancient times. A snake bun was definitely one of the more difficult ones. But when placed on Tongning's head, it didn't look cumbersome at all. As she was the cold concubine, she practically didn't use any hairpins or ornaments. Instead, she looked elegant and noble. Dressed in a light yellow robe, she looked warm and spirited. But her eyes were cold and distant, giving off a sense of alienation. Before Qinglan transmigrated to this world, she had always loved warm-colored robes. This was because, when the previous emperor first met her, he had told her that light yellow made her look warm and refreshing. From then on, she fell in love with light yellow robes. However, from that moment on, her tragic life began. The previous emperor never summoned her again. Although she wasn't banished to the cold palace, she was treated like an abandoned concubine. She's so beautiful, she's so beautiful. It was at this time that Qinglan met the similarly unloved prince, Junilan. An unloved concubine raising an unloved prince. Even though they were only 3 years apart, the two of them treated each other like mother and son. The previous Qinglan, of course, didn't have the talent to teach Junilan. But after transmigrating to this world, she was exceptionally talented. Junilan, in order to prevent the woman he loved from suffering in the cold palace, decided to bravely become the ruler of a country. Tongning felt heartbroken for the relationship between the two main characters. At the same time, she sighed. Luckily, she lived in the modern world, in a rich, powerful, and free country. If these photos were to be released, everyone would go crazy. They're so beautiful, the makeup artist exclaimed. What about the male lead? Tongning asked. I still don't know who the male lead is. I'm sure you guys have already done some styling, right? No, the staff shook their heads. This is the truth. Fine, I won't make things difficult for you. It seemed the only person on set that knew who the male lead was the director. Tongning cooperated and took stills for both of her looks. The photographer was extremely satisfied with the result. Tongning smiled without saying a word. After work was over, she returned to the set to watch the supporting actors film their scenes. The director was Chen Feng, so the quality of the film was naturally indescribable. Not only that, even the extras were especially attentive. It was obvious that Ting had put in a lot of effort in such a short period of time to find all sorts of talented actors. After all, there was nothing more important than acting. This made Tongning feel a little relieved. The mystery of the male lead became a topic of discussion among the crew. But Chen Feng did not explain. After all, the answer would be revealed when the time came. It didn't take long before the production crew of The Forensic Concubine released Tongning's final photo to the public. Quick, look, Tongning's photo is out. Wow, she didn't disappoint. She's really beautiful. As a fan of The Forensic Concubine, after seeing these photos, I can't help but feel confident in Tongning. Especially when it comes to her acting, just looking at her photos is enough to captivate people. Tongning's acting lies in her eyes. They are especially good at conveying things and are extremely accurate. After seeing these photos, I am even more certain that she is an actress. I love Tongning's beauty. Afterwards, someone placed Tongning and Baiyu's photos next to each other for comparison. This was natural. After all, both of them were popular figures and they were competitors, so the audience couldn't help but compare their abilities. But Baiyu's fans had previously praised Baiyu like she was a goddess. But when placed next to Tongning's photos, she became like a passerby and looked especially old. I feel like Baiyu is playing the role of Tongning's mother. Haha, that's true. Previously, when I looked at Baiyu, I thought she wasn't bad. Her makeup was really thick and she looked stunning. She had the presence of concubine Ning. But when placed next to Tongning, I can't see anything wrong with her. Baiyu's fans immediately refuted. The two of them are from different times. Of course, they can't be compared. Exactly. The mask on Tongning's head is almost crushing her to death. Tongning looks like a white lotus. How is she as domineering as our Baiyu? Seeing this, the crew of the Forensic Concubine once again released a photo of Tongning as the Empress Dowager. This time, Baiyu's fans were speechless. Baiyu's makeup was from a different time period, but her eyes were exactly the same as before. But Tongning was different. The coldness and desolation of the cold concubine and the fierceness and helplessness of the Empress Dowager were all seen through by a single glance. Based on the photos, Tongning is the complete winner. I've always felt that Tongning's acting is a product of talent. She has a high level of understanding. Although other people can also hone their acting skills, they can't compare to her. Look at how Baiyu's fans boast. They're always so confident. But when they get slapped in the face, they always try to turn the tables around. What an eye-opener. I can't wait for the Forensic Concubine. Although I already know the plot, I'm sure it will be fun to watch Tongning act. Although it's a pity that the male lead is a bit of a stretch, I hope they can take a photo together. That's right. The public had always thought that Huangfu Shua was the male lead, so they had this kind of attitude. But even though Tongning had been on set for a few days, no one had heard anything about the male lead. Instead, she began to get closer to Huangfu Shua. In reality, Huangfu Shua liked crowds and Tongning liked silence. The two simply looked at each other, but they never spoke to each other. After all, their personalities were worlds apart. Huangfu Shua was the happiest person on set. So, when he heard other people's discussions, he teased his narcissism. Bro is the male lead. Who else could be more suitable than me? You guys talk about the male lead all the time. Don't tell me I'm not as handsome as the male lead? In reality, the crew of the Forensic Concubine did not announce their male lead. This was the strategy of the Forensic Concubine. Yujie, the crew next door probably only have this much to show. After all, the male lead isn't that likable, Baiyu's assistant comforted. Her assistant comforted Baiyu on set. They've already used their big moves. Let's see what else they can do to attract attention. Perhaps the only thing that people criticized about the Forensic Concubine was that Huangfu Shua didn't have the qualifications to play the male lead. But at this time, the official Weibo account of the Forensic Concubine suddenly responded to a fan's question. The official production has not announced the male lead. This is a big surprise. The official Weibo user is looking forward to the day the mystery is revealed. Huangfu Shua had misled the public for so long because he wanted to divert Baiyu's attention. Now that filming had begun, it was time to clarify the rumors. At this time, the public were shocked. So, Huangfu Shua isn't the male lead. It's actually not the male lead. Haha, I can't help but let out a sigh of relief. Then who will it be? I can't wait. Chapter 762. Although Tongning wanted to find out who the male lead was, she wasn't in a rush. She knew they were bound to bump into each other during filming. It was only a matter of time. As they knew that Tongning didn't have a manager or assistant, the production crew took extra care of her. In fact, some of the staff didn't quite understand why. Look at you, you're so famous now that you can get whatever you want. Why don't you find yourself a good assistant? Look at those big shots. They all have 2 assistants and 4 bodyguards by their side. This is already the norm. Yet, you still do everything yourself. The auntie that delivered food to the production crew noticed that Tongning didn't have anyone to collect her lunch, so she took the initiative to deliver it to her. As Tongning ate, she felt a warm sensation in her mouth. I think I'm fine on my own. There's nothing worth taking care of. Auntie, you're a good person. Haze, it's rare to see a down-to-earth person like you. You should eat more. It wasn't that Tongning didn't need an assistant, but because of the incident with Song Yenshu, she no longer felt it was necessary. Especially after giving birth to 2 babies, she no longer felt she needed someone to take care of her. Tongning smiled and accepted the auntie's kindness. A moment later, a surprised voice from the production crew could be heard. I heard that the male lead has joined the cast. The male lead has joined the cast. In that case, did you see who it was? I heard it from someone else. Won't we be able to see him in the afternoon? Indeed, the 2 would have a scene together in the afternoon. So, Tongning refused to believe that this man wouldn't appear. Oh God, I'm so looking forward to it. After lunch, Tongning sat on the set reading through her script. The scene in the afternoon was extremely important. First, she would have to work with the second male lead, and then she would have to almost break up with him. So she was extremely focused. This was also her first scene with Huang Fushua, so she was actually looking forward to it. After all, even though Huang Fushua was frivolous, his acting was impeccable. It didn't take long before Tongning and Huang Fushua began their first scene together. Huang Fushua's character had always been by the female lead side. Everyone thought that he was a little eunuch, but who would have thought that he was actually a prince from another country? He had been by the female lead side for many years. This person's feelings towards the female lead were complicated and ever-changing. Of course, he was just a happy person on a daily basis. As Huang Fushua's personality was similar to his, it was extremely easy for him to control it. His interactions with Tongning were also very interesting. After 2 NGs, they quickly passed the test. Afterwards, it was time for Tongning and the male lead scenes. As soon as Huang Fushua heard that the male lead had already joined the cast, he joked, I refuse to believe that there's a better and more handsome actor on set than me. And, at this time, a black figure walked out from the dressing room. His figure was long and slender, peerless and peerless. Heavens! Heavens! Look, look! Heavens, as soon as everyone on set saw Mo Ting, they couldn't help but feel excited. They almost lost control of their emotions. On the other side, Huang Fushua was still exaggerating and making everyone smile. Meanwhile, on the other side, everyone that saw Mo Ting passing by exploded. I am the most handsome. I refuse to believe that the male lead can be any more handsome than me. A moment later, Mo Ting appeared behind Huang Fushua. The height difference between the 2 was obvious. Everyone covered their mouths in shock. As for Tongning, she was so shocked that she dropped the script in her hands. Although she knew it was Mo Ting, she had never seen him dressed like this. As expected, he was born with the aura of a king. Looking at him, Huang Fushua was obviously a supporting character. Am I seeing things? Is that President Mo? A staff member beside Tongning asked as she tugged on her arm. Is he a living person? Aha. Tongning regained her composure and nodded her head. I've never seen such a good-looking man in ancient clothing. I'm so happy that I'm about to faint.
Ah.
President Mo is actually acting alongside Tongning and her husband. That's Junilan. No one can be more realistic than him. Seeing everyone's infatuated expressions, Huang Fushua immediately turned around. As soon as he saw Mo Ting, he was shocked. But he couldn't deny that the Mo Ting in front of him was indeed the king that hated the common people, Junilan. This is such a pleasant surprise. Tongning, did you already know about it? Like you, I only found out about it now, Tongning replied to the staff. In that case, mother, are you satisfied? Mo Ting asked, mimicking the character in the film. No matter how I tested you, you wouldn't let go. Was it all for this moment? Tongning couldn't help but glare at him. Even if you didn't hide it from me, you were already stunning enough. After all, I never imagined that you would look so stunning when dressed up. Do you guys think President Mo can act when he looks so stunning? All we know is that he knows how to write scripts. I don't think he can act. I don't care if he can act or not. As long as he appears in the film, I'm willing to watch him even if I have to stand still. The staff once again started chatting. At this time, Huangfu Shoa couldn't help but show off his status as a senior to Mo Ting. After you put on your costume, you'll be my colleague. You aren't considered a big shot anymore, are you? I'm sure you've never acted before and have no experience. Do you want me to teach you? Mo Ting was dressed in a black brocade robe. He had an imposing aura and was definitely not an ordinary person. But everyone was worried about his acting. Although he was the CEO of Hai Rue and the financial backer of the film, it didn't mean he could act. What would happen if he ended up in a terrible situation? Mo Ting lowered his head calmly and asked, "How do you plan to teach me?" Tongning couldn't help but let out a gentle laugh. She then lowered her head and looked at the script. The scene that was about to take place was extremely important. Jun Ilan had seen through the eunuch that Huangfu Shoa was playing. So, without giving Qinglan a heads up, Jun Ilan directly replaced her confidant. Although Qinglan knew that the eunuch was up to no good, she hated Jun Ilan's methods, especially since she was his mother in name. As a result, the two had a huge argument. At first, Jun Ilan respectfully addressed Qinglan as mother. But afterwards, he suppressed his anger and grabbed onto Qinglan's neck, asking her if she had a heart. This was a scene that required explosive power and emotions. Even an actor like Huangfu Shoa had a hard time, let alone Mo Ting. This man was like a mystery. He didn't know anything, yet he dared to pick the male lead. Most importantly, did director Chen Feng actually agree? Did he go crazy from wanting to win against the man next door? If they didn't have the male lead, he could still force his way into the role. Why would he use someone that didn't know anything? Chapter 763. Even if you want to teach, Tongning should be there. Tongning's acting isn't as good as yours, one of the staff whispered into Huangfu Shoa's ear. Huangfu Shoa froze for a moment. In the end, he cleared his throat to distract himself from the awkwardness. President Mo, are you okay? Director Chen Feng approached Mo Ting and asked before filming began. Mo Ting nodded his head slightly. This simple gesture was enough to reassure the director. As mentioned before, when Mo Ting first took over Hai Rue, he suffered quite a bit. But to prevent himself from being used again, he personally took control of the entertainment industry. Even when it came to singing and acting, he forced himself to understand and get used to it. Because he knew the only way he could rely on others was by taking control of his own work. Okay, get ready. We're about to start filming. Chen Feng returned to the front of the camera and reminded Tongning, "Tongning, pay attention to your emotions." Tongning glanced at Mo Ting and nodded her head at the director. The first scene was actually Jun Ilan watching as Tongning laughed at the anecdotes that the little eunuch had gathered. But when it came to Jun Ilan, she had never smiled like this before. So, Jun Ilan was infuriated. The first scene was Qinglan facing Jun Ilan from the side. The camera first focused on Qinglan, then on Jun Ilan. Does President Mo really know how to film? I'm so nervous. I'm even more nervous than President Mo. President Mo isn't an actor. When he's quiet, he's like an immortal. I hope he doesn't get destroyed by his movements. After the set was cleared, the remaining staff placed all their attention on Mo Ting. They were afraid that this man didn't know how to act and would disappoint them. In reality, they didn't have much hope. A few of the staff even covered their eyes, afraid that the scene they were about to see would be too horrible to look at. Following a loud bang, Tongning sat down on a carved wooden stool and giggled as she looked at the album in her hands. At this time, Jun Ilan had already stepped through the door. Seeing Tongning laughing so happily, he immediately asked, "I've never seen Mother laugh like this. This is the first time." Qinglan raised his head. When he saw Jun Ilan, he was startled. He hurriedly hid the album behind his back. June Elon lifted his robe and sat upright on a wooden stool. His tone and expression were filled with disappointment. That's right, he was disappointed. However, he lowered his head as if he was trying to suppress his emotions. Then, he turned back into the June Elon that Qinglan was familiar with. However, when he spoke, his tone was a little indifferent. I thought that after all these years in this palace, when facing me, you would at least not need to be on guard. In the end, it seems to be disappointing. Do I make you unhappy? Qinglan's expression was a little downcast, but she suppressed her emotions and said to Junilan, "If there's nothing else, you can leave. I'm tired." After speaking, Qinglan stood up from his stool. However, just as he took a step forward, June Elon grabbed onto his wrist and pulled him towards the carved wooden door. Their eyes met. June Elon's expression looked like he was on the verge of exploding. He was cold, pained, angry, and helpless. He didn't know what to do with this complicated expression. That was why his hands were shaking. I've told you before, you have to be careful of that eunuch. You need to call yourself son and call me mother. You don't trust me? June Elon asked as he held onto Qinglan's neck. June Elon, don't forget who we are. I am your mother. Furthermore, who I use and how I use them is my own business. You shouldn't have the right to tell me what to do. But what should I do? I've already replaced the eunuch. From now on, he will never appear in Tai Chin Palace again. Qinglan's face was red and her eyes were bloodshot. Tears flowed out of her eyes and rolled down her cheeks, onto her chin, and onto the web between June Elon's thumb and index finger. However, her eyes were filled with determination. Give him back to me. When June Elon heard this, he released his grip on Qinglan's neck. His eyes were filled with mockery as he said, I have forgotten that Imperial Mother has no heart. How could you hurt me so much for an outsider? As he spoke, he took 3 steps back and left the Great Dawn Palace without looking back. Qinglan leaned against the wooden door as her sobs turned into painful sobs.
Cut.
Director Chin Foam yelled as he stood up.
Great.
I never expected President Mo to be so good at hiding his abilities. Most importantly, the two of you actually managed to do everything in one go. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. What had just happened? When did this scene end? Everyone held their breaths. Mo Ting's grip a moment ago felt like he was strangling their own throats. The feeling was too real. June Elon is so affectionate. Sob, sob, sob. Qinglan has it so hard. On one hand, she has to control her emotions, but on the other hand, she has to succumb to June Elon's tenderness. It's so torturous. Wait a minute. What did I just see? Mo Ting is too godly. I've never heard rumors that President Mo is an actor. If he knows everything, how can he be alive? Chen Feng looked at everyone's confused expression and explained President Mo wasn't born with this ability. When he took over Hyrule, he specifically trained himself. How come no one knows about this? I'm afraid even Tongning doesn't know about this. Mo Ting knew how to act, and his acting was unfathomable. After finding out about this, everyone was filled with excitement. The world was too fantastical. How could a man be so perfect? After filming, Mo Ting returned to his usual iron-blooded CEO. He was dressed in a well-ironed suit and had a serious expression on his face. But, as soon as he put on his costume, he turned into June Elon. Did you think you could teach President Mo how to act? With President Mo's smooth acting, you would look like child's play to him. Huang Fushua scoffed as he crossed his arms and turned around. When a man is too perfect, he becomes boring. An outstanding actor was able to motivate other actors, especially those that he had scenes with. Tongning was already used to controlling her acting. But when she was acting with Mo Ting just now, she had completely forgotten that she was Tongning. All her reactions were because of Mo Ting. So, she didn't dare to imagine how good Mo Ting was. This man really deserved a beating. While they were at home, he insisted that he didn't know how to act. So, President Mo, can you explain to me what you're doing? Didn't you say you didn't know how to act? Tongning raised an eyebrow. Chapter 764. I indeed don't know how to do it. Junilon does. Mo Ting smiled gently. As for the reason why Tongning and Mo Ting passed in one take, it was because Mo Ting had already done a lot of scenes for Tongning while they were preparing for filming. I'll deal with you when we get home. Tongning scoffed. Mo Ting responded with an affectionate smile. Haha, this time, the forensic concubine will definitely crush our neighbor. The staff on set were extremely excited. Because Mo Ting had joined the cast, the entire crew acted like they were on steroids. Every day, after filming their own scenes, they would stay on set to watch Tongning and Mo Ting scenes. While everyone was learning the acting skills of the two actors, they also felt the pain in their hearts. They were like television viewers. When they saw Mo Ting and Tongning's sweet scenes, they would laugh like idiots. But when they saw their heartbreaking scenes, they would cry on the spot. Oh God, I can't wait to see the final film after the editing. But our neighbor is already halfway through filming.
Who cares about them?
They've already started filming for so long. But according to our speed, we should be able to catch up soon. Watching Tongning and President Mo's scenes is so satisfying. Of course, all of this was happening internally on set. The entire process was kept under wraps and no one from the public knew about it. Whenever Mo Ting had nothing to do, he would appear at Hai Rue and appear in front of the public like he didn't even need to act. In reality, he enjoyed his heartbreaking scenes with Tongning. At least, the forensic concubine was very satisfying for him. Because of the love and hatred between Junilon and Qinglon, the film was extremely satisfying and complete. During this time, news about concubine Ning came in one after another. Baiyu couldn't find any news about the forensic concubine, so she couldn't sleep or eat well. She had already lost in terms of the official photos. So, she wasn't going to let Tongning surpass them again. So, she hired a professional paparazzi to infiltrate the filming set and find out more about the male lead of the forensic concubine. But, to her surprise, the staff of the forensic concubine had all been carefully selected and trained. As soon as they saw the paparazzi approach, they simply smiled and said, "We have found a newcomer that has never acted before. Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure. Don't you believe me? Everyone in the crew knows about this." Translator, Uni editor, Uni the paparazzi brought back some news for Baiyu. Baiyu slammed her hands on the table and cheered. This is great. Mo Ting is indeed cunning. He used a newcomer and was afraid that the public would object, so he sealed off filming. Once the final film is released, the public will have no choice but to accept it. He was indeed a newcomer and had never acted in a film before. But didn't Baiyu notice that something was wrong? News of the royal concubine using a newcomer and not daring to announce it to the public quickly spread. Of course, fans of the royal concubine objected. They loved Junilon's character deeply, so naturally, they would not allow it to be tarnished. If it's a newcomer without any acting skills, we won't watch it. That's right. Our Junilon is a pitiful and domineering man. Don't act like a naive and sweet guy. I refuse. Rejected. I strongly request that the production crew announce the first male name. It's just a small plot, and the crew of The Queen has turned against each other. What a joke. These fans of the original work don't even use their brains. Baiyu looked at the scolding comments on the official Weibo of the royal concubine and sneered, President Mo is too much. Even if there's no one else to play the role, he shouldn't have done something so unconventional. Yu Jia is wise to cause trouble for the people next door. It wasn't that they didn't want to announce it, they were simply afraid that if they did, they would be shocked to death. Even so, the crew of the royal concubine continued to endure the pressure and continued filming day and night. However, because of Baiyu's instigation, Hai Rue's PR became extremely passive. So, news quickly spread to the production crew, and the situation escalated to the point where fans were attacking the original Tang Xiao. Mo Ting immediately gave Fang Yu a phone call, deal with the fans. When Huangfu Shoa heard that Baiyu had something to do with this incident, he felt his entire body burn with anger. It was bad enough that she was a hypocrite, but she always tried to frame others. He really wanted to expose Baiyu's facade. In reality, Fang Yu had never come into contact with the fans of the original novel. Plus, he didn't have anything to show for it. Even if he could, in the eyes of 1,000 fans, there would be 1,000 Junyi Islands. So, unless he directly announced the results, it would be difficult to appease the fans. But if he couldn't even deal with a few fans of the original novel, how could he be called Fang Yu? So, he did not take the initiative to mention the male lead. Instead, he indirectly used Tang Xiao to tell the fans of the original novel, filming for The Forensic Concubine has always been difficult. All of the male leads were instigated by someone to reject the role. I was already frustrated enough. Who would have thought my fans would become a knife that stabbed me in the back? I believe in Hai Rui, and I believe in the production. Why can't you guys believe in me? Junilan was created by me, one stroke at a time. Don't tell me my heart aches more than you guys? Since he's an actor that I acknowledge, that means the truth isn't the same as the rumors. As my true fans, have you really considered my situation? How am I supposed to endure the mess you're making? Who's the one benefiting from your actions? I didn't ask for a single cent in copyright fees for the script. So, don't accuse me of being selfish. On top of that, Tongning is only acting out of friendship. We simply want to present The Forensic Concubine in front of everyone. I never expected that you guys would stand against me. Don't you guys know who I'm standing against? It was the crew of Concubine Ning. After Tang Zhao's reminder, a large portion of the original novel's fans finally came to their senses. They realized that they shouldn't be used by people with ulterior motives and that Hai Rui must have a reason for doing what they did. Plus, everyone had put in so much effort, so as fans of the original novel, they shouldn't hold them back. When the time is right, Hai Rui will naturally announce the male lead. I can secretly reveal that the male lead has completely defeated the man next door. In fact, he even defeated the 2 men that rejected the role. If the results aren't accurate, Tang Xiao, will immediately stop writing and retreat from the online novel industry. With Tang Xiao's guarantee, the original novel's fans regained their confidence. Instead, they began to ridicule the man next door. The man next door sure has evil intentions and is shameless enough to provoke the relationship between the production and fans. It's all because the royal concubine, has made them nervous that they would do something so despicable. I don't care anymore. I'm confident. Since Xiao Xiao said that the male lead is her idol, then he must be perfect. Wait for her idol. Chapter 765. Over the next few days, the Best Ex-Girlfriends successfully held its wrap party at the hotel. Throughout the entire filming process, the thing that left the deepest impression on director Wang was the change in Chen Xingyan. After an entire film's worth of training, she now looked more and more natural in front of the camera. She was indeed Mo Ting's sister. It was like she was born with an inexplicable bond with the entertainment industry. Her ability to adapt to the environment was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Xingyan, put on a good performance and continue to maintain this attitude. Since your entire family is in the entertainment industry and you are one of them, you need to make a name for yourself so you don't embarrass your brother. Above all, you have such a good manager. You need to cherish him. At the wrap party, Director Wang drank a little too much, so he spoke a lot. But his words were sincere and moved Chen Xingyan quite a bit. After the party, and Zaheo leaned over and whispered into Chen Xingyan's ear, "Let's go home and get some rest." Chen Xingyan quickly said goodbye to everyone and left the hotel within Zaheo. However, as soon as she stepped out of the elevator, she spotted a familiar person at the front desk. Although the person was wearing a mask, they had interacted many times. So, even if the person was reduced to ashes, Chen Xingyan would still recognize them. In fact, there was another man with Chen Xingyan. I was wondering why Bai Linlin hasn't been causing trouble lately. It turns out she's in a relationship. Is that Bai Linlin? And Zaheo asked as he looked at the intimate couple. I'm sure. But if I'm not wrong, that man is Bai Yu's husband, and Zaheo raised an eyebrow at Chen Xingyan. Are you saying? Chen Xingyan quickly covered her mouth. Did Bai Linlin cheat on Baiyu with her brother-in-law? Judging from how careful they were and how intimate they were, I'm afraid that's the case. Isn't this a bit too reckless? Why don't we follow them and take some interesting photos? Hasn't Baiyu been clinging to Ning Jie lately? If word gets out. After speaking, Chen Xingyan wanted to follow them, but Nzaheo stopped her. Idiot, there are surveillance cameras. Go home and get some rest. I will handle this matter. Oh, but it's so exciting. Chen Xingyan couldn't hide the excitement in her voice. Nzaheo looked at her dotingly and helplessly. After sending her to the car, he made her wait for half an hour before they returned home. As soon as they stepped through the door, Chen Xingyan couldn't help but jump onto Nzaheo's body. She wrapped her arms around his neck and asked, "Did you get the evidence?" "What do you think?" Nzaheo asked as he hugged her round butt. "Why don't we do something exciting too?" Nzaheo knew what she was thinking and immediately denied. "You're still young." "Hey, I'm at least 20. Go get some rest. I need to get Tongning to deal with the surveillance footage of Bai Linlin and her brother-in-law. Okay, business is more important. Baiyu is in trouble." After speaking, Chen Xingyan slid off Nzaheo's body. Nzaheo patted her head, and his lips curled into a bitter smile. This girl was always recklessly rubbing herself against his body, completely unaware of the danger she was in. Worst of all, he was losing more and more control over himself. If one day he really couldn't control himself anymore and wanted her, what would he do? Nzaheo sighed, turned around, and walked into the study room. He then gave Tongning a phone call. But the person to pick up was Mo Ting.
Air.
I didn't mean to call Tongning late at night. I simply have something that I need to share with her. Uh-huh, you're a qualified bestie, Mo Ting said as he raised an eyebrow. Nzaheo helplessly rubbed his forehead. Although he didn't want to admit that he was like a woman in Mo Ting's heart compared to Mo Ting, he had to admit defeat. Ahem. While Xingyan and I were attending the celebration dinner, we ran into Bai Linlin and Baiyu's husband having an affair. Recently, Baiyu has been clinging onto Tongning. I thought it might be of some use to the two of you, so I went to the surveillance room and asked for the surveillance footage. You don't need to make a phone call about something like this, Mo Ting replied coldly. Couldn't Nzaheo say that he had something else he wanted to talk to Tongning about, but didn't want Mo Ting to know about it? Plus, it wasn't like he had the obligation to catch them in the act. Couldn't Mo Ting thank him? If this was in the past, he would have definitely questioned Mo Ting. But because of his guilty conscience, he could only watch as Mo Ting retorted. What did Nzaheo say? Tongning was actually feeding the babies by Mo Ting's side. I discovered Bai Linlin and Baiyu's husband having an affair, Mo Ting said as he put down his phone. Tongning was a little surprised, but she quickly accepted it. That's not surprising. Bai Linlin is young and beautiful, while Baiyu is competitive. Any man would choose the former. I wouldn't, Mo Ting said in seriousness as he looked at Tongning. My choice is always for you. Recently, Tongning had become Mo Ting's fangirl. She discovered that she was even more infatuated with this man than before. Every time she discovered something new, Tongning would wonder, was there anything in this world that Mo Ting couldn't do? After putting down the babies, Tongning grabbed onto Mo Ting's shirt and pulled him closer to her. We still have a debt to settle. Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh as he followed Tongning into the couple's bedroom. How many things haven't you told me yet? Tongning asked as she pressed Mo Ting against the wall. After being married for so long, I've realized that there's still something worth digging out from you. Mr. Mo, you have surprised and surprised me. Does that make you even more infatuated with me? Mo Ting asked with a smile. That's not right, Mrs. Mo. I've always felt that the thing that attracts you the most about me is my abilities.
You.
Before Tongning could finish her sentence, Mo Ting lifted her in his arms and carried her towards the bed. Mrs. Mo, I can't listen to anything you say right now. My mind is filled with one thought. I want you. During the day, when the couple were filming, especially when they were working together, most of the scenes were heart-wrenching. Love and hate intertwined at the same time, and they loved each other, but couldn't stay together. Every time she was in a scene like this, Tongning would reflect on herself and cherish the man in front of her even more and their warm family. Filming for The Forensic Concubine lasted for a good few months and was completely sealed off from the public. Up to this point, there were still a few important scenes that had yet to be completed. Perhaps it was to speed things along, but after the incident where the fans of The Forensic Concubine fought with Hai Rui, Baiyu took a break and focused all her energy on the filming of Concubine Ning. Actually, when it came to acting, her acting wasn't bad. But on one hand, she pretended to be kind, while on the other, she acted evil. It was quite disgusting. After Nzaheo handed over the evidence of Bai Linlin and Bai Yu's husband's affair to Mo Ting, he was not in a rush to use it. After all, President Mo was used to being two-faced. Good things should be used where they were needed most. Before he knew it, it was the end of the year with the most awards. Because Concubine Ning had completed filming, Baiyu began to appear on all sorts of TV shows to promote herself. Of course, she continued to put on a fake smile and say fake words. But every time she went out, someone would take special care of her husband. Chapter 766. Concubine Ning has already been scheduled to air on the 15th of the Lunar New Year so that it can air before The Forensic Concubine. If it was also a period drama, there would definitely be more advantages if it was aired first. Firstly, the audience liked to be prejudiced. Secondly, if it was aired consecutively, then the audience would feel tired. Plus, Concubine Ning has secured the best broadcasting platform and is being broadcast at prime time. This is definitely not good for us. During a meeting at Hai Rui, the higher-ups in charge of operations expressed their opinions. Baiyu has always had a good relationship with the public. Her image has always been well taken care of. Although we didn't get along well in the past, Concubine Ning has always had a good grasp of the bigger picture. Most importantly, our male lead has yet to be revealed. So, after the first round of promotions, Concubine Ning has doubled our expectations. President Mo, the royal concubine, hasn't finished filming yet. What should we do? Could it be that he was going to fight for the summer holidays? If that's the case, then we will miss out on this year's Fei Tian Awards. Who was the one that said we had to air later than Concubine Ning? Concubine Ning has indeed grabbed the best primetime slot, but that's only limited to Mondays to Fridays. What about Saturdays and Sundays? The weekend is the world of variety shows. What happens after the variety show ends? President Mo, are you saying that we should adopt a weekly format? No matter how much publicity Concubine Ning tried, Mo Ting still had a lot of explosive information in his hands. So, once this information was revealed, Concubine Ning would no longer have anything to do with it. Most importantly, he couldn't reveal Bai Linlin's affair with Bai Yu's husband to the public. So, he had to deal with it in private. After all, Bai Yu was the victim. If he revealed it to the public, he would be playing the sympathy card for her. At this crucial moment, something big happened on the set of The Forensic Concubine. Due to the weather and the negligence of the production team, director Chen Feng was injured during filming. In the end, he was sent to the hospital. Soon, the news spread, and all kinds of speculations began to spread. I heard that director Chen Feng fell off a cliff and died. I heard that the filming location for The Forensic Concubine is quite creepy. A few people have already died there. Oh, what bad luck. I heard that too. Apparently, when director Chen Feng died, his head was separated from his body. It's too scary. No matter what was going on, there was one thing that was for sure. The filming of The Forensic Concubine had to stop. This would delay the progress of the show even more. Actually, for a matter like this, all Hai Rui had to do was step out and clarify the truth. But the most annoying thing was, director Chen Feng's leg was temporarily incapacitated. Even the heavens are helping me. After seeing the news, Bai Yu sneered. Let's see how long they can last with such a lousy production. Actually, Sister Yu, you don't have to worry at all. The viewership ratings will prove who the real queen is. Her assistant flattered her. In that case, you should also keep a close eye on the news from next door. Concubine Ning is about to air. I don't want any more accidents to happen, Bai Yu said coldly. As she knew about the story between Huangfu Shua and Bai Yu in the past, she told Huangfu Shua about how Bai Yu had been betrayed by her own sister and husband to help him vent his anger. But, in reality, after Huangfu Shua heard about it, he did not feel the same pain as before. It wasn't because he no longer hated Bai Yu, it was because he finally understood one thing. No matter how Bai Yu had treated him in the past, there was no need for him to be hysterical. Because, whatever Bai Yu owed him, she would always find a way to return it. This time, because of the incident on set of The Forensic Concubine, Mo Ting gave everyone a day off. So, Huangfu Shua ran into Bai Yu at the hotel. As he looked at her husband standing beside her, he suddenly felt extremely ironic. This wasn't a coincidence. He had purposely asked around for Bai Yu's whereabouts before he appeared at the hotel. As always, Bai Yu felt like she had the entire world in her hands. So, as soon as she saw Huangfu Shua, she blocked his way and refused to let him leave. "I haven't introduced my husband to you yet, have I?" "I don't think it's necessary. I've been getting to know him better lately," Huangfu Shua said with a hidden meaning. "Since you're familiar with him, then you should know that I'm still not someone to be trifled with," Bai Yu warned beside Huangfu Shua's ear. On one hand, Huangfu Shua felt that Bai Yu was pitiful, but on the other hand, he also felt that she was not worthy of his sympathy. "By the way, I heard that your production has stopped working again? How pitiful. Previously, you couldn't find a male lead and now, the director has been injured. Your production sure is plagued with misfortune," Bai Yu said proudly. For some reason, under the flashing neon lights, Bai Yu's face felt extremely unfamiliar. "Did you know that Concubine Ning will be airing next year? I hope you can contribute a bit to the viewership ratings. As for when your drama will be released to the public, all I can say is, I wish you all the best of luck." Huangfu Shua crossed his arms and smiled at Bai Yu's aggressiveness. "Aren't you tired of having to change your expression every day?"
Who told me to be an actress?
"Bai Yu, I came here today to watch you make a fool of yourself. Sooner or later, you will find out that you are a complete idiot." After speaking, Huangfu Shua pressed the elevator button and left. Bai Yu looked in the direction that Huangfu Shua had left and laughed in disdain. "You've already gotten to this point. Why are you still putting on airs?" "Sorry, it wasn't that Huangfu Shua wanted to put on airs, but the production crew of The Forensic Concubine hadn't said anything yet. Although the content hadn't finished filming, it didn't affect the screening of the drama. After all, it was a weekly drama that could be split into 2 parts. So, why was it plagued with misfortune?" Huangfu Shua felt that if he didn't tear apart someone like Bai Yu's hypocrisy, he would be letting down society. His conscience would be hurting. But the good show would have to wait until The Forensic Concubine was officially announced. As for the affair between her husband and sister, she had to be the one to expose it on her own. Bai Yu felt that Huangfu Shua was the same as Tang Ning. He had become extremely pretentious and annoying. So, in the following promotional events, Bai Yu made sure to express her sympathy towards the production crew of The Forensic Concubine. It was like she deliberately mentioned another production crew's name to give them a little more popularity. Afterwards, Hai Rui announced director Qin Feng's current situation and clarified all the rumors that had been circulating. Not only that, Hai Rui seemed to be preparing to make a big move. They were ready to announce the name of the male lead. At a time like this, no matter who it is, it's already useless. Didn't they stop filming? That's right, so much time has passed. My expectations have already dropped to 0. I'm already prepared to watch Concubine Ning. The Forensic Concubine is best left to the novel. Chapter 767. Most of the audience's attitudes had already calmed down. Because of the closed-door filming, the long period of secrecy surrounding the male lead, and the continuous promotion of Concubine Ning, in the eyes of the audience, The Forensic Concubine was a drama that came to a premature end. It was such a shame that Tang Zhao's original work was lost. At this point, the neighboring drama has no chance of making a comeback, Bai Yu's assistant said excitedly. Things like this still depend on luck. I've always been lucky in this area, Bai Yu said to her assistant as she got changed in the activity room. In that case, it's almost New Year. Can I go home early? It's a big family reunion today. After you take me home, you can go home. Bai waved her hand. Bai waved her hand generously. Unfortunately, Bai Linlin was overseas, and her husband had returned to the US. Who would have thought that she would be spending New Year's in Beijing on her own? But it didn't matter. Winning against Tongning was enough to lift her spirits. Before she knew it, Tongning's 2 babies were already half a year old. To celebrate the New Year together, Tongning gathered the Tang and Mo families, including Bai Qindong and Han Xiner. Everyone fought to hold the babies, and the 2 smiling rascals immediately received a bunch of red packets, making the older generation unable to let go of them. Ning Jia, is the forensic concubine really going to fall behind concubine Ning? Recently, I haven't seen any good reviews for it. What's going on? Han Xiner was most concerned about the topic that the industry was currently discussing. But she hated it when people praised concubine Ning while stepping on the forensic concubine. Which one of these 2 is easy to deal with? If you have the time to worry about this, why don't you think about when to accept my proposal? Bai Qindong said as he appeared behind Han Xiner. Bai Qindong appeared behind Han Xiner. He then turned to Tongning and asked, if you need help, just let me know. After all, you've won a few awards for Best Actor. You should have some say in the industry. No need. Mo Ting's cold reply immediately extinguished Bai Qindong's enthusiasm. I say, what exactly are you so proud of? At least I'm a father. What about you? Bai Qindong. Since his proposal was rejected, Bai Qindong had no choice but to look elsewhere to avoid the awkwardness. Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh before he wrapped his arm around Tongning and walked over to the elders to celebrate the New Year with them. Although it had been over 30 years and he had never celebrated the New Year with so many people, it wasn't too bad. Afterwards, during a new meeting at Hai Rue's operations manager once again raised the issue of the forensic concubine. He felt that Mo Ting should make a decision as soon as possible. After all, their current situation was too difficult. Concubine Ning was the most anticipated film, but the forensic concubine didn't even make it into the top 10. President Mo, if we don't come up with a countermeasure, we will be beaten by our neighbor. Soon, Concubine Ning will begin airing. In that case, let her broadcast it, Mo Ting said calmly. But if I, Mo Ting, fail to win this battle, I will hand over the position of CEO to you, Mo Ting said straightforwardly. Let's end the meeting here. Let's wait for the next step of my plan. Since Mo Ting had already made a promise like this, what else could the manager say? Seeing the attitude of concubine Ning, Mo Ting changed his strategy. A weekly broadcast? There was no need to make way for concubine Ning. The most anticipated film? Then, he would broadcast it to his heart's content. He needed to let Bai have a taste of sweetness before she would fall into despair. Of course, Hai Rue did not announce their male lead, so Bai assumed that Hai Rue had given up on struggling. This was perfect, it would save her the effort. Concubine Ning's premiere audience rating breaks too. Viewers rave. Concubine Ning's premiere is hot. Bai is indeed the queen of viewership. Concubine Ning's ratings continue to rise on day 2. Its highest rating is 2.6. It didn't take long before Concubine Ning broke new viewership records. It had only been on air for 2 days, but it was already met with a wave of praise. While the audience was watching the drama excitedly, many of them were reminded of a drama called The Forensic Concubine that was competing with it during filming. However, they didn't expect that the tides would turn. The Forensic Concubine had already fallen to rock bottom. Concubine Ning is so good. She's so good. The drama is indeed of high quality and has a conscience. At that time, Tongning even claimed that the script had been tampered with. I bet she's angry because the female lead was stolen from her. It's all karma. Look at her. The forensic concubine is no longer doing anything. Pfft, I don't care. I simply like watching Concubine Ning and Bai. Seeing the comments online, Bai is already popping champagne at home to celebrate. As long as she maintained this high of viewership ratings, the Best Actress award would definitely be hers when the Fei Tian Awards were held in February. I never thought that emoting would become so weak. But you probably never expected this. After this snowy night, everything would be different. The next morning, an explosive piece of news spread throughout Beijing. Emoting had announced that he would be acting. That's right, Emoting was going to act. In an instant, the big boss of the entertainment industry caused an uproar in the industry. Some were doubtful, some were surprised, some were just here to watch the show, and some were waiting for a pleasant surprise. Everyone had different thoughts when they heard the news. As soon as Baiyu heard about the news, she sneered. What trick is he trying to play this time? But just as she was waiting to see how her viewership ratings would change, a beautiful video began to spread throughout Beijing. It was a collaboration between Hai Rui and a famous web browser. As soon as a netizen opened a web page, this video would automatically pop up. Because of its high quality, it immediately caught the attention of young people. As for the content of the video, it was none other than the most classic scene of The Forensic Concubine. It was the scene of Qinglan and Junilan being forced to abdicate on their wedding night. Hey, I saw a video today. I think it's related to The Forensic Concubine. Me too.
+1.
Fuck. In order to watch this video, I repeatedly opened up the web browser. It was so tiring. But did you guys notice the actor that plays Junilan is? Oh my god. Emoting. I'm going to explode. Hurry and tell everyone. Fuck, it's so good that I'm going to cry.
Ah.
Oh god. Emoting. It's really emoting. It's actually emoting. This is unbelievable. Have you guys watched it yet? If you haven't, hurry up. Chapter 768. It didn't take long before the video received a lot of views. In fact, the more observant netizens discovered that if they clicked on the video, they would be directed to the official website of The Forensic Concubine. The official website was no longer lifeless. Instead, the male lead silhouette with a question mark was now replaced with a still from Junilan. That's right, it was a still from Junilan. And on the top right corner of the still, there was an ancient script that stated that Junilan was being played by Emoting. I'm going to go crazy. I've never seen an actor that fits the original story so well. Emoting is so good-looking. Especially when he puts on his armor. He looks domineering and heart-wrenching. The problem is, does Emoting know how to act? I don't care if he knows how to act or not. As long as he stands on screen, even if he doesn't move an inch, I'm willing to watch 80 episodes. When is The Forensic Concubine going to be released? I want to see Junilan. I'm so excited. I've never been so concerned about a drama before. Hai Rui, hurry and announce the screening time. Or, why don't you show us the trailer? It's really good. Tongning and Emoting are exactly the Qinglan and Junilan that we want. It's such a great feeling. The audience cheered loudly, especially the younger generation. Anyone that had seen the video before was captivated by the short 10-second clip. As a result, the younger generation began to dig up more information about The Forensic Concubine. As a result, the number of people waiting in front of their televisions began to decrease. However, Baiyu is still extremely confident in her drama. I don't believe that such a short clip can create such a huge storm. Indeed, a short clip couldn't create a huge wave. But the next day, the viewership ratings for Concubine Ning were released, and the industry was shocked. On the day of the premiere, the viewership ratings broke too. But 2 days later, the viewership ratings had dropped to 1, 4, and less than 1, 5. Simply because The Forensic Concubine released a short clip that lasted 10 seconds. Concubine Ning lost almost half of her audience. The entire industry was shocked by Emoting's role as Junilan. After all, no one expected Emoting to know how to act. Most of the professionals were doubting Emoting's acting. But didn't Tongning also start out as a model? Worst of all, the public's reaction to Emoting acting as Junilan was huge. For an entire day, the words Emoting and Junilan were at the top of the search rankings. One could imagine the amount of attention they received was quite shocking. Hai Rui struck while the iron was hot. At 8 p.m. that night, As if they were deliberately going against the broadcast time of Concubine Ning, they released the latest trailer for The Forensic Concubine. It was 3 minutes long. With this 3-minute preview, the fans once again fell into a frenzy. After all, the Junilon that was portrayed by Mo Ting was so handsome that even the gods were enraged. Everyone was attracted to Mo Ting's handsomeness, but in the end, they were conquered by the 3-minute trailer. They had to admit that the acting of the characters in the film, especially Tongning's, was real. As for Mo Ting, he exceeded everyone's expectations. Like a veteran, he was familiar with all sorts of scenes. Wah, it's not satisfying enough. I want to see the real thing. How can 3 minutes be enough? Hai Rue is going to release the real thing. Fuck, I originally thought Tongning and Mo Ting would be slow because they were husband and wife. But as soon as they got into character, they were completely different. I can't see any traces of reality. I don't care. This is the Junilon that I want. I'm super satisfied. Because of this 3-minute preview, a lot of people lost interest in Concubine Ning. After all, it had only been on air for 2 days, and they hadn't developed any feelings for it yet. Plus, The Forensic Concubine was originally an adaptation of a high-quality IP, so fans of the original series already had a strong relationship with it. So, with the addition of Mo Ting, the entire series was sent into an uproar. So, on the 4th day, the ratings for Concubine Ning fell to 1. If it continued like this, it was highly likely that it would fall below 1 or even lower. So, the crew of Concubine Ning suddenly felt a sense of crisis. Baiyu was so angry that she smashed things at home. She never expected that The Forensic Concubine would be able to make a comeback like this. Her limelight, her ratings, and her status as the queen. But because of Mo Ting and Tongning, everything had turned to nothing. As a result, the crew of Concubine Ning held a few events in an attempt to recover. But it wasn't easy to find viewers that had already been lost. As she watched Tongning and Mo Ting's popularity continue to rise and Concubine Ning's ratings continue to fall, Baiyu finally felt helpless. Originally, after the first wave of promotions for The Forensic Concubine passed, she thought she would be able to let out a sigh of relief. But what made her even more depressed was the crew of The Forensic Concubine announced a screening time on the opposite channel and at the same primetime slot. Previously, after seeing The Forensic Concubine explode in popularity, the person in charge of the broadcasting platform contacted Mo Ting in private. At that time, Mo Ting simply asked, "If you dare to stop Concubine Ning from airing on your channel, I will release it. Otherwise, there's no point in talking." Of course, the person in charge couldn't stop Concubine Ning for no reason. So, they simply expressed their disappointment at losing the right to air The Forensic Concubine. They had no idea that working with Concubine Ning back then was equivalent to offending Hai Rue and Mo Ting. Not only that, Mo Ting also chose to work with their biggest competitor and chose to air their show at the same time slot. Wasn't this competition exciting enough? Although everyone knew that Concubine Ning would be beaten to a pulp, when they actually saw the ratings, they were still shocked. 0, 59, and 3. 1. The ratings for Concubine Ning couldn't even compare to the ratings for a news channel. Start high but end low was a good example of a drama like Concubine Ning. But, in reality, everyone understood that it was because of Mo Ting's impact that the situation had turned around. But this was also a wise decision made by a decision maker. After the first day of airing, the comments were all positive. Haha, I'm so excited. Seeing Qinglon and Junilon together makes me happy. The two of them have also been young and inexperienced before. Although I know it's going to be very painful, I can't help but want to continue watching. The audience was heartless. Although they appear to be sentimental, they had already forgotten that when they watched Concubine Ning, they said they would only support Baiyu. But at this moment, apart from The Forensic Concubine, they had no intention of watching any other drama. Mo Ting used an ironclad fact to tell everyone that anyone that provoked Hai Rue would end up like Baiyu. No matter how much they thought they were in the lead, they would still end up like Yu. Chapter 769. Of course, after watching 1 or 2 episodes, while everyone enjoyed the show, they still had a question in their minds. How did Mo Ting, who had never dabbled in acting, know how to act? He was like a hidden expert. It seemed things that normal people didn't even dare to think about were easily accomplished by him. Some people could not figure it out no matter how hard they thought about it, but there were also people who easily gave the answer. There was no other reason than that Mo Ting was a genius. All of a sudden, the entire Beijing was talking about the forensic concubine and the plot of the drama. Everyone was asking for resources and buying merchandise. As for Yu, even after Concubine Ning finished airing, not many people paid attention to her. This was the so-called International Best Actress. It was hard to see a drama being crushed in such a pitiful manner. Originally, Yu wouldn't have ended up in this state. But, unfortunately, she offended Mo Ting and schemed against Hong Ning. So, it was only right that Mo Ting make things difficult for her in various ways. Of course, even though Yu's drama flopped, she wasn't at a dead end. After all, she still had a kind image. As long as she maintained it, she still had a chance to make a comeback. Yujia, the A-list jobs have all been taken up by big names recently. It seems, when we're on the same level, the producers don't even consider us. Don't tell me you want me to lower my standards? If that's the case, is this still the International Best Actress Yu? Yu asked angrily. In that case, have a look at these jobs. Yu's assistant nervously handed over the documents. She had already reached this stage, yet she still had to put on airs. She had flopped so badly at the television awards that even her parents wouldn't recognize her, and she had become a laughingstock. So, she didn't know what else to be proud of. Yu received the documents from her assistant and simply glanced at them before slamming them on the head. You want me to accept a reality show like a newcomer? Yujia, I'm sorry, I'll take them away immediately. Seeing her assistant pick up the documents from the floor, Yu immediately stopped her. Wait, perhaps you can try a reality show. Showing off her EQ was her forte. Her assistant handed over the documents in a daze. After looking through them, Yu agreed to participate in a reality show called One Day, One Night. Most variety shows nowadays were bought from South Korea, so there was no point in them being original. But it was undeniable that they could quickly increase your popularity. After all, a person with a high EQ would be very popular no matter where he went. But, to Yu's surprise, Huangfu Shoa also agreed to join the show and record the same episode as her. Didn't Huangfu Shoa never appear on variety shows? Sister Yu, why don't we find a reason to reject him? After hearing her assistant's words, Yu glared at her. She was already at a low point in her career. If she continued to stubbornly reject her work, would any variety show accept her in the future?
Go.
She wanted to know why Huangfu Shoa was doing this. Before filming began, Yu approached Huangfu Shoa in private. Did you go on this show because of me? At that time, Huangfu Shoa was standing at the front door of his home and did not allow Yu to enter. His voice was light and casual. Miss Bai, did you know that you think too highly of yourself? I'm a B-lister, so it's natural for me to participate in this kind of program. But what about you? How could an almighty international best actress make such a decision? Did you know that the gap between you and Hong Ning is getting bigger and bigger? Yu is left speechless, because every word that Huangfu Shoa said hit the nail on the head. Shoa, can you not side with Hong Ning? I'm not siding with either side, Huangfu Shoa replied as he crossed his arms. Huangfu Shoa crossed his arms and replied, I'm still waiting for you to make a comeback. Miss Bai, don't disappoint me. Are you happy to see me go downhill? Why wouldn't I? Huangfu Shoa asked. I'm sorry, Miss Bai, let's see each other on the show. I'm afraid that if the reporters catch us, I won't be able to explain myself. After all, I'm currently very popular because of my outstanding performance in The Forensic Concubine. Yu turned and left with tears in her eyes. But, even so, Huangfu Shoa did not pity her. After all, he knew Yu too well. She didn't have any sincerity to speak of. She was best at lying to herself and others. Participate in a variety show? Huang Fushua scoffed. This time, he was actually going because of Bai Yu. After all, he had promised that he would expose Bai Yu's fake mask after the forensic concubine made a response. Now, the opportunity had arrived. Let's wait for a good show. I heard that Bai Yu has gone to participate in a variety show. After dinner, Tongning fed Guogua as she asked Mo Ting, "Why would you do something so degrading?" The only reason she's able to survive in this industry is because of her cleverness. How wise of a decision do you expect her to make? Mo Ting asked. Plus, the upcoming events. At this point, Mo Ting did not continue. But Tongning understood the hidden meaning behind his words. Whether it was Huang Fushua's revenge or Bai Linlin's affair with her husband, they were both things that would rip Bai Yu to shreds. The couple did not say another word, as they placed all their attention on the two babies. As she looked at her two sons, who were becoming more and more adorable, Tongning couldn't help but pinch Tongtong's cheeks. Because Guogua always cried, Tongning couldn't afford to offend him. What was even more hilarious was that Tang Tang, who was in her father's arms, had wet her father's pants. Aight. They were already a little over 7 months old. The two rascals could already mumble a few words, especially when Tang Tang was excited. After drawing a map on her father's body, she would cry out in excitement. Seeing this, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. Hurry and have a bath. Mo Ting placed a gentle kiss on his son's head before placing him back in his crib. He actually enjoyed the sight of his two babies playing tricks on his body. As a father, there was nothing he was more proud of than this. The next day, Mo Ting arrived at Hai Rui for work as usual. However, as soon as he stepped out of his car, he was immediately surrounded by a group of reporters. It seemed the security at Hai Rui's underground parking lot was going to be replaced again. President Mo, do you have any intentions of becoming an actor? President Mo, will you change your focus from now on? President Mo, will you have any new projects after the forensic concubine? President Mo, everyone is curious about your acting skills. Can you share with us how you've developed your acting skills? I don't think it's necessary to share my plans with the public. Of course, my favorite thing to do is stay at home and take care of the kids. Mo Ting's words blocked all the reporters' questions. As a result, a rumor began to spread. Mo Ting had only participated in the forensic concubines because Tongning needed him. That was all. Being the leader of the wife-doting brigade wasn't just for show. Chapter 770. For Mo Ting, participating in the forensic concubine was as simple as going shopping for groceries. It wasn't as complicated as the public thought, nor did it require him to make any earth-shattering decisions. It was simply something within his capabilities. It was fine if Mo Ting kept a low profile, but even Tongning kept an unusually low profile. As it was a film produced by his own agency, apart from the necessary promotions, Mo Ting did not arrange any other activities. After all, the ratings were already there, and Tongning had already fulfilled her responsibilities as an actress. It seemed he had decided to train Tongning in that direction. If there was a role, she would act. If not, she would hide. It seemed he wanted to tell everyone that only a good script would allow Tongning to be active in the industry. She was a true actress that was born to act. This further cemented Tongning's status as a high-quality actress that only acted in good dramas. At this time, Bai Yu was thinking about how to make a comeback. The reality show One Day, One Night would place 5 guests on a deserted island and attempt to survive in the wild. They would also leave behind a distress signal, but they would only be given 24 hours to decipher it. As long as the 5 guests could successfully find a clue, they would receive the keys to the escape car and their mission would be considered a success. But if they failed, they would have to undergo a test. In Beijing, the show's ratings were always quite good. This was because every time they were placed on a different island, apart from seeing all sorts of interesting sceneries, they were also able to experience different thrills and dangers. Soon, the show began filming. Apart from Huang Fushua, Bai Yu is accompanied by an old singer and her pet, a young couple. They weren't all from the entertainment industry. For example, The young couple were famous travelers who had traveled to many different countries on foot and had plenty of experience in surviving in the wild. The 5 guests were placed on an unknown island with the heaviest luggage on their backs. As the young couple were used to it, they did not find it cumbersome. However, the man couldn't help but carry the luggage for his wife, while Huangfu Shua carried the luggage for the old singer. So, Baiyu had no choice but to carry the luggage herself. Out of everyone present, only Huangfu Shua knew how good Baiyu was at disguising herself. To make things easier for herself, she would definitely do her best to put on an act. As expected, not long after they arrived on the island, while they were resting, Baiyu told them that she wasn't tired and wanted to scout ahead for the others. No one asked her to do this. But a moment later, Baiyu's cries could be heard coming from the forest. Everyone turned to look and saw Baiyu sitting on the ground rubbing her ankle. Sorry, I don't want to drag you guys down with me. Let me stay here on my own and move on. The old singer immediately said to Huangfu Shua, Huangfu Bai. Huangfu Shua shook his head. My responsibility is to take care of you. You see, your body isn't that good. If something were to happen to you, the burden on our team would be even heavier. After listening to Huangfu Shua's words, the young man nodded. He's right, I'll carry it. Why don't we take advantage of the fact that the sky hasn't turned dark yet and we need to familiarize ourselves with the island as soon as possible? Why don't we let Baiyu rest here while we familiarize ourselves with our surroundings? Then, we can come back to pick her up at the appointed time. That way, we won't waste any time and energy, Huangfu Shua suggested. You bye-bye, Su-Su sister.
Huangfu Yu, as he said.
Baiyu, have a good rest here. You won't be afraid, right? Huangfu Shua asked. He knew that, according to Baiyu's personality, she wouldn't throw a tantrum on the spot. Instead, she would pretend to be sensible and say, Okay, I'll wait for you guys here. Who asked me to act like an idiot? That's good. Let's hurry and set off. After speaking, the group continued on their way. Behind them, Baiyu was so angry that her face turned red. But there was no way for her to vent her anger. After a few steps, the young woman approached Huangfu Shua and said, Do you really hate Baiyu? I can tell that she's really good at pretending. I really don't understand why an international award-winning actress like her would participate in a reality show. That's enough. She even wanted my boyfriend to carry her on his back. I think she deliberately hurt her ankle because she didn't want to walk. A woman's intuition was always very accurate. Huangfu Shua smiled in agreement. Is that true? What a bitch. I hate people that are good at pretending. In that case, are you interested in exposing hers? The young woman did not say a word, but the 2 men had a tacit understanding. The best thing about the show was that, after 12 hours, the entire team had a chance to vote to reduce their burden. Of course, after so many episodes of the show, not a single team had chosen to give up on their teammates and continue to carry on. But this time, that wasn't necessarily the case. Before Baiyu participated in the show, she specifically watched a few episodes to ensure that none of her teammates would be abandoned, so she decided to participate. But this time, she was wrong. At first, Baiyu wasn't afraid because she was angry. But as her vision began to blur and night approached, she finally felt her palms start to sweat. She refused to believe that her teammates would leave her in the same spot for a few hours without caring about her. Of course, Huangfu Shua and the others weren't so stupid. So, before Baiyu broke down, he found her and brought her to the tent that they had set up. He then began to study the clues that they had found in the few hours that Baiyu was gone. Although Baiyu was present, she couldn't understand a single word. She felt like an outsider. Am I useless? Did I cause trouble for you? It's fine, the young woman smiled. You've never participated in anything like this before, so we understand. But, my leg. You can continue to rest tomorrow. We will continue to look for clues. That way, you won't have to worry about being a burden to us. After hearing this, Baiyu's expression changed. She already didn't have much screen time today, so she couldn't afford to miss out on another opportunity tomorrow. So, on the surface, she did not respond to the young woman. But in the middle of the night, she decided to put on a show. While everyone was resting, she took the opportunity to practice walking outside. She wanted to be useful and be used. Look at how good she was at pretending. Fuck, she sure is ruthless to herself. At this time, the young woman couldn't help but say to her boyfriend, I really have to give her full marks for pretending to this extent. It's bad enough that she doesn't sleep, but she actually made everyone unable to sleep because of her. What was the show thinking? How could they bring a weirdo like her in? Outside the tent, Bai would occasionally encourage herself. That's right, she was encouraging herself. She thought she was great. Chapter 771. Bai thought someone would step out to comfort her, even if it was just a sentence or two. But the other four quickly covered their ears and pretended not to hear a thing. They simply treated Bai like she was crazy and did not bother to step out to respond. Bai put on an act for nothing. But the next morning, before everyone had woken up, she diligently prepared breakfast. That's right, she used all the ingredients they had to prepare a scrumptious breakfast. As soon as Huang Fushua saw this, he sneered without saying a word. Afterwards, it was the old singer's turn. The first thing he did after waking up was take his pet for a stroll. Finally, it was the young couple's turn to wash up. As soon as they saw the breakfast Bai had prepared, they looked at each other, although they did not say a word. It's great that everyone is awake. I've already prepared breakfast, Bai said with a smile. Bai smiled and said to everyone, come and eat. After we finish eating, we can continue on our journey. Bai waited for everyone to praise her, but no one was willing to do so. In fact, a young woman even sat down beside Bai and asked, we indeed have breakfast, but what about lunch? You've used up all the ingredients we have. Bai was a little surprised. She then pointed to the cameraman and said, don't we have food supplies? Miss Bai, did you seriously look at the rules before coming on this show? Who told you that you could receive outside help while surviving in the wild? Bai was completely stunned. Her eyes turned red from being criticized. I simply wanted to reward everyone for their hard work. I even woke up early. You've worked hard. You can have breakfast on your own. We need to continue on our journey. Your leg is injured, so you should stay in this safe place. We will come back to look for you. My leg is fine. Hearing that they were going to leave her behind again, Bai quickly stood up and took a few steps forward to indicate that she was fine. Okay, since that's the case, let's all eat something and start looking for other clues. The young man acted like nothing had happened as he reminded everyone to quickly replenish their energy. As she wished, Bai rejoined the group. But she still had to carry her luggage on her back. In reality, due to the lack of food and tents, the weight everyone had to carry was a lot lighter than the previous day. But Bai still felt tired, so she had to take a break after every few steps. Everyone else was busy searching for clues, but Bai was like a headless fly as she followed behind them. She felt like she was an insignificant existence. We've finally found a numeric password. There are still 3 more. If we can't find them before nightfall, we'll consider it a failure. But I'm so hungry. There's not much food left in my backpack. It's all been used for breakfast, the young woman said as she subconsciously looked at Bai. I really didn't do it on purpose. Bai immediately apologized guiltily. Forget it. It's normal for you to encounter all sorts of accidents in the wilderness. You can't blame Yujia. Let's continue forward. The young man immediately tried to help Bai out. But we need to head up the mountain to look for new clues. The young woman didn't want to continue forward with Bai. After all, it was better to take the old singer with them. Although the old singer's stamina was not as good as the young man's, he was very quick-witted and often came in handy. Bai, on the other hand, was purely a joke. I can hold on. Bai immediately said, I won't be a burden to you guys anymore. The young woman looked at the young man, and the young man looked into the distance. Huang Fushua followed the old singer from the beginning to the end. The two of them moved forward in tacit understanding. In the end, The young woman had no choice but to say to Baiyu, "In that case, hurry up." The path up the mountain was difficult to begin with, but because they were waiting for Baiyu, everyone's progress was quite slow. In the end, the young woman couldn't take it anymore and suggested that she go up first. In order to protect his girlfriend, the young man also sped up. Seeing how desperate the two were to win, Baiyu said to them, "You guys walk in front. I'll carry the things. That way, we can save you a lot of time." The young woman rolled her eyes in the dark. Couldn't Baiyu be a little less mischievous? She was already at a time like this, yet she was still trying to show off. Why was she being considerate of others? At this time, the production team's helicopter finally landed in front of them. It was time to eliminate the contestants. The young woman had been looking forward to this moment. She was so unlucky that she ended up participating in the same show as Baiyu. The staff handed over a pen and paper and said to the group, "Write down the burden or person you want to leave behind. Or perhaps you want to stick together until the end. Now is the time to make your decision." Baiyu glanced at the group. She was well aware of the style of the show. The 5 of them would definitely stick together and no one would be left behind. So, she directly gave up and did not write down anyone's name. It didn't take long before the staff collected all of their notes and said, "Now is the time to reveal your answers. All of you should be prepared to be eliminated at any time." Baiyu wasn't worried at all, but the others had a tacit understanding. Afterwards, the staff opened the paper and randomly picked out a piece of paper. Baiyu, eliminated. Baiyu was a little surprised. She looked at the group and smiled awkwardly before waving her hand. "It's fine, it's fine." A moment later, the staff opened the second piece of paper and revealed a meaningful smile. Baiyu, eliminated. 2 votes. "I never thought that I would make you guys so unhappy." Baiyu, eliminated. 3 votes. As for the last piece of paper, I don't think I need to open it. Baiyu's elimination is already a foregone conclusion. "Are you sure this is the result you want?" the staff asked. The group looked at each other and nodded their heads in unison. As a result, Baiyu was completely eliminated. Baiyu never imagined that, after so many years of hosting the show, she would become the first artist to be rejected by the other members of the show to the point of being voted out. That's right, she was directly eliminated. In other words, the content that followed had nothing to do with her. "I know I've caused a lot of trouble for you guys, and that's why you hate me. But am I really as bad as you think I am?" The girl did not say a word. Huang Fushua was squatting on the floor playing with his dog, and the old singer was trying to figure out the clues. Only the young man dared to respond. "You are suitable to be an actress, and you are suitable to be glamorous. But you are not suitable to participate in any reality show. Because from start to finish, you have been acting as yourself." Baiyu, please board the helicopter. Baiyu, you have been eliminated. As a result, everyone that watched the program let out a sigh. Why is Baiyu so fake? Chapter 772. Participating in a reality show is insane. I've never seen such a pretentious artist before. She deserves to be eliminated. This is obviously a team show, yet she keeps trying to show off and drag the team down. She's crazy. From the start, she acted like she didn't want to walk and wanted to carry her on her back. Unfortunately, no one bought her act. Baiyu's personality isn't bad, but she likes to be in the limelight. If I had a friend like her in my life, I would be scared. To put it bluntly, she's a pretentious bitch and a white lotus. Her acting was too obvious. No wonder she was eliminated by her teammates. I watched the rest of the show. Without Baiyu, everything returned to normal. Baiyu wanted to display her high EQ in front of everyone.
But she was too narcissistic.
On a reality show, who would be willing to buy into her act? So, even though she was scolded by the audience, she 100% deserved it. This almost made Baiyu explode in front of the staff. Why didn't they say anything when they had been targeting her from the start? So, after disembarking from the plane, she headed into the bathroom to vent her anger. It didn't take long before her assistant came to pick her up. After boarding the van, Bayu smashed everything in the van and even hit her assistant in the face with her phone. However, she had no idea that the paparazzi were following closely behind the van. The scene of her throwing a tantrum in the van had already been captured by them. Wasn't his high EQ and good-tempered persona about to collapse? Bayu had no idea what was happening as she rushed home. But just as she opened the front door, she heard a commotion coming from the bedroom. Bayu tilted her head to listen and pushed open the bedroom door. Inside, she found Bai Linlin and her husband lying on the bed passionately kissing each other. At that moment, Bayu looked at everything that was happening in the room in shock, especially the two naked women. All of a sudden, he had forgotten what kind of reaction he should make. "Wifey, why are you home?" "Sis." At this time, Bayu felt like she had been struck by lightning as her face turned red. She felt dirty and humiliated. She never imagined that the two people closest to her would be cheating on her. "Bai Linlin, you're amazing. You actually seduced your brother-in-law." Seeing that her cover had been exposed, Bai Linlin no longer tried to hide as she wrapped herself in a blanket and said to Bayu, "Sis, to be honest, I'm already pregnant with brother-in-law's child, and we plan to give birth to it." Bayu's assistant was still standing outside, yet Bai Linlin dared to say such a thing. Bayu pushed her assistant out of the room and was about to step forward and slap Bai Linlin across the face. But she was stopped by the only man in the room. "Bayu, have you had enough? Linlin's pregnant."
So,
"Should I fulfill your wishes, or should the three of us live happily together? Let me tell you, this is impossible. I can't let this child be born. Otherwise, the three of us will fight to the death." "Are you crazy? This is a matter between us adults. There's no need to involve the children." "Did you think about me when you were having an affair?" Bayu yelled.
why?
"Why did it have to be my sister and husband? Bai Linlin, do you have any sense of shame?" "That's enough." The man grabbed onto Bayu's wrist and pushed her away. "Since that's the case, let's get a divorce. I'll take Linlin back to the US." "Divorce?" Bayu looked at the man and sneered as tears rolled down her cheeks. "That's impossible. If worse comes to worst, we'll destroy each other." "Unreasonable." After speaking, the man dragged Bai Linlin past Bayu and left the room. Meanwhile, Bayu felt like her body had been hollowed out as she felt an indescribable pain. Her assistant was standing outside the door and witnessed the entire process. As she watched Bayu fall to the ground, she immediately ran over to help her up. "Yujia, are you okay? The two sluts want to be together?"
Don't even think about it.
"But Yujia, if you expose yourself, you will be the one to suffer." Bayu's image was no longer what it used to be, especially after the reality show. If Bayu was to get a divorce, even though it was her husband who cheated on her, it would still be a black mark on her. "Let's discuss this matter at length. Don't be rash." Bayu held onto her assistant's hand tightly. It was obvious that she was on the verge of breaking down.
Why?
"Why is God punishing me like this?" But this wasn't the end of it. The paparazzi even released a video of Bayu venting her anger on her assistant. In a short period of time, Bayu's high EQ and easygoing image collapsed like a tower that had lost its foundation. Seeing Bayu's pitiful state, Tongning calmed down. After all, ever since concubine Ning, the gap between her and Bayu had grown bigger and bigger. So, she no longer needed to care about Bayu. Even so, the people around him still felt that they had vented some of their anger. Above all, Longjia had recently received news that Bayu's marriage had changed. Of course, Tongning already knew about this because Nzaheo had already given her the evidence. But Tongning had never mentioned this to anyone. If the rumor that Bayu's marriage had changed then was that she had already ruined Bai Linlin and her husband's plans. That kind of blow should be the one that could destroy heaven and earth, right? "Hey, when I mentioned this, why didn't you react at all?" Longjia asked as she held up her pregnant belly. "I'm the one who should be curious. You're obviously about to give birth, so why is Lu Che letting you wander around?" Tongning said as she glared at Longjia. Plus, I already knew about this a long time ago. Previously, I simply treated it as a bargaining chip. Who would have thought that Bai would lose so badly, so I forgot about it. You didn't forget. You knew that you didn't even need to do anything. Bai would eventually find out, Long Jie scoffed. When it came to dealing with her enemies, Tongning never showed mercy. For Bai, her life would be worse than death. So from now on, we don't need to focus on her. Tongning still had a long way to go. But Bai seemed to have reached the end of her road. The winner had already been decided, so there was no need to dwell on it any longer. That's right. You are the hottest candidate for Best Actress at the Fei Tian Awards. Long Jie smiled. At this moment, looking at Tongning, Long Jie felt like she could see the light in front of her. But Guogua has been running a fever for the past 2 days. The doctor said it's because he's developing slowly in his mother's womb and hasn't absorbed enough nutrients. His body is slightly worse than Tang Tang's. Tongning did not forget that she was the mother of 2 babies. Chapter 773. Children are all like this. Their immune systems are weak. You don't need to worry too much. Ever since Long Jie became pregnant, she had become an expert in this field. Plus, there are so many people at home to take care of them. Your worries are unnecessary. Tongning looked at the 2 rascals taking a nap as her heart filled with worry. No matter how many people there were at home to take care of them, her mother's position was irreplaceable. At the same time, she would always have an unforgettable feeling towards her 2 babies. After filming The Forensic Concubine, Tongning visited director Chen Feng once at the hospital. Seeing the old man's legs slowly recovering, she felt a lot more relaxed. I originally thought that The Forensic Concubine still had some important scenes that weren't filmed and would affect the broadcast. I never expected President Imo to change the sequence and make the final climax of the film. Actually, there are still around 10 more episodes to go. What a shame, Director Chen Feng said regretfully. Because we didn't film the last part, we can't broadcast it. Everyone feels that this ending has a different flavor. Although it's not as satisfying as the original, it's still a rare piece of work, Tongning replied with a smile. Director Chen Feng smiled as he looked at Tongning in seriousness. Director Chen, do you have something to say to me? Director Chen Feng pulled out a script from under his pillow and handed it to Tongning. He then said in a serious tone, I recommended you to the production. I'm sure this film will be amazing with your performance. Tongning received the script and had a look. The name of the film was Survivor. This story is based on a real incident from 20 years ago. It was a plane crash in Beijing. I've looked through the script, and the main character is attractive. So, I recommended you to the production. Go home and have a good look at it before you make a decision. Thank you, Director Chen. You won't even get to wear a clean set of clothes or have a proper meal during the entire filming, let alone your image. You'll look like a crazy woman. Many actresses are afraid of ruining their image, so they don't dare to take the role, but I believe in you. Director Chen Feng believed that Tongning, who had changed careers for the sake of acting, wouldn't care about her image as long as she was given a good role. I will look through the script, Tongning promised in seriousness. Tongning promised Chen Feng in seriousness. However, unlike in the past, this time, the script in her hands felt heavy. This was a movie adapted from a true story, so if she took on the role, she would be given a new mission, and she would feel that she had a great responsibility. This type of disaster film was somewhat similar to WH, but it was also very different. This was because WH was more about imagination and gave the audience a visual impact and experience. However, Survivor was different. This was a true story that had actually happened. Therefore, the feeling it brought to the audience was reality. Of course, Tongning had no idea that this film, Survivor had broken all the box office records in film history and helped her reach unprecedented heights. Of course, that was a story for another time. After returning home, Tongning handed the script to Mo Ting. "Old man Chen gave this to me." Mo Ting put down the documents in his hands, grabbed the script, and flipped through it. "Elder Chen really understands you. So, you approve of me filming Survivor, right? What reason do I have to reject?" Mo Ting asked straightforwardly. Tongning didn't know why, but the thought of acting in this film made her feel excited. In fact, she even went into the nursery to hug and kiss the babies. Perhaps others might not understand why, but Mo Ting knew exactly what Tongning was thinking. Because Survivor was extremely challenging and the characters in the film were extremely attractive to Tongning. Above all, Mo Ting had a feeling. This film was going to make Tongning the queen of the film industry. Survivor was produced by the National Film Corporation and was under the jurisdiction of Beijing officials. When they were recruiting actors, they clearly stated that the pay was very low and that it would ruin the actress's image. With such a heavy topic, coupled with all sorts of restrictions, many actresses stopped in their tracks. But Tongning agreed to the job without any expectations regarding her salary or image. The officials directly announced that Tongning would be the female lead of Survivor. This result was within the expectations of most people. For a role like this that tested one's acting skills, not to mention being old, ugly, and receiving zero pay, even if they wanted her to throw herself at it, she would still do it. So, the public started to ridicule Tongning. No wonder Tongning was able to gain everyone's approval so quickly. As long as it's a good script, she would do anything to get it done. Tongning is extremely thirsty for a good drama, and of course, it's a guarantee of a good one. Haha, an actress like Tongning should be treated like a national treasure. Because we don't have to worry about her doing the same thing in every film, people are always full of anticipation for her work. Everyone in the industry was optimistic about Tongning taking on Survivor. Of course, there were also people that were jealous. I refuse to believe that there's an actress that doesn't care about her image. Just wait and see. Tongning will definitely regret it. If she messes up in a film like this, her job will be ruined. It would be strange if she doesn't drown in saliva. Does she really think she's a national treasure? Isn't she overestimating herself a little too much? Regardless, the news of Tongning being cast as the female lead of Survivor created a huge reaction. But what was Bai Yu doing at this time? Ever since Bai Linlin and her husband cheated on each other, Bai Yu no longer hated Tongning as much as she did before. No matter how much people hated Tongning, at least she didn't steal her husband or destroy her family. Yet Bai Linlin as her biological sister. Thinking of this, Bai Yu felt extremely disgusted. Especially after laying all their cards on the table, Bai Linlin and Jeff became even more fearless in front of Bai Yu. Yet, there was nothing Bai Yu could do. As a public figure, she couldn't even get justice for herself. While everyone's tempers are still fine, you should sign the divorce papers. Otherwise, no one will look good. Bai Yu wanted to yell at Jeff to get lost, but this was a house that Jeff bought, so she had no right to do so. If she left, she was sure that Bai Linlin would not feel guilty and would simply take over her home. If that happened, she would be dreaming if she wanted to come back. I've never seen someone act so righteously after an affair. Even if I break up with Linlin, I can't continue living with you. I can. As long as I can make you suffer, I don't care what it is, I will do it. Chapter 774. At this time, Bai Linlin walked out of the bedroom and raised an eyebrow at Bai Yu. "Sis, why are you doing this? Shut your mouth. You have no right to speak here." Bai Yu yelled. "Jeff has wanted to be a father for a long time, but for the sake of your career, you've decided not to give birth to a child for him. It doesn't matter, as long as you have me, you can continue to work hard. I'll take care of Jeff," Bai Linlin said as she leaned into Jeff's embrace. Her voice was filled with arrogance. Bai Yu looked at Bai Linlin for quite some time. In the end, she squeezed out one word from between her teeth. "Bitch."
Sign it.
Jeff once again placed the divorce papers in front of Bai and forcefully held onto her hand as he forced her to sign them. Get lost. You adulterer and adulterer. You're an inhumane couple. Bai tore the divorce papers to shreds like crazy and threw the pen in her hand to one side, causing a loud crash. Sooner or later, you'll still need to sign it. Jeff was not in a rush. He looked deeply into Bai's eyes before he hugged Bai Linlin and led her into the master bedroom right in front of Bai. Bai directly threw something at the door. The hatred in her heart had already reached the sky. She had never thought that such a vulgar plot would happen to her. She could laugh it off when she heard other people's stories, but when it happened to her, she just wanted to kill the pair of bitches in the room.
Bitch.
She wanted to give birth to the child? Don't even think about it. Plus, she understood Bai Linlin better than anyone else. After all, Bai Linlin was still young, so she loved to be vain and admired. So, making the child in Bai Linlin's stomach disappear wasn't a difficult task. With this thought, Bai pulled out her phone and gave a familiar person a phone call. Soon, Bai Linlin received a phone call asking her to attend an audition. An audition? Bai Linlin never expected that someone would remember her. So, she said excitedly to Jeff, "Darling, I will be attending a banquet tomorrow night because a director has invited me to film a film." As soon as Jeff heard this, he yelled, "You're already pregnant. Why would you film a film? Tongning can film even when she's pregnant. Why can't I? Don't worry, I'll take good care of our child. Just let me meet the director, even if it's just a meeting, so that I can fulfill my wish." Bai Linlin clasped her hands together and said sincerely, "I swear, I won't accept it. I'm just going to have a meal. Knowing that someone still remembers me, I'm content. After you go to the United States, as long as you give birth to a child, I can still let you become an actress. I can make you famous. Why do you have to rush now?" Although Jeff liked Bai Linlin's youthful body, most of the time, her thoughts made him scratch his head in frustration. "Honey, just let me go." "As you wish." There was nothing Jeff could do. All he could do was slam the door and leave. Meanwhile, Bai Linlin had no idea that this was a trap set up by Bai. So, the next afternoon as she left home, Bai Linlin deliberately showed off in front of Bai. "I don't think anyone would ask me to act in a film anymore. After all, my sister's perfect image has been completely destroyed. But what should I do? I previously contacted director Qin, and he asked me to go for an audition. Although the role is small, doesn't that mean I still have hope and you have no chance?" Bai Linlin circled around in front of Bai and scanned her from head to toe. "I'm sorry, sister. I didn't mean to steal everything from you, but I really like brother-in-law too much. So, I suggest you let go. Otherwise, you will end up in an even more miserable state. I guarantee." After speaking, Bai Linlin left the house. As for Bai, she followed Bai Linlin's gaze with a deeper meaning. Jeff couldn't stop Bai Linlin. Otherwise, the couple would end up in an argument. This was one of the things he didn't understand about women. She was obviously pregnant, yet she insisted on attending a banquet. Director Qin did Bai a favor because he had a good impression of her. So, he actually hosted a banquet for Bai Linlin along with a few other staff members. Bai Linlin felt like she was being valued. She actually thought someone had invited her to act in a film. So, even when someone tried to force her to drink alcohol, she accepted it all. She didn't want to reveal the fact that she was pregnant. Because if she did, not only would she not be able to go for an audition, but she would also leave after hearing about it. So, that night, Bai Linlin drank quite a bit of alcohol. By the time she arrived home, her entire body reeked of alcohol. This made Jeff furious. He grabbed onto Bai Linlin's wrist and asked, "Did you drink?" "I only drank a little." Bai Linlin mumbled unhappily. But a second later, Jeff threw a slap across her face. "You fucking crazy woman. How could you drink alcohol when you're pregnant? Do you have any common sense?" "I drank it. What do you think? Nothing happened to the child, right?" Jeff sneered. He suddenly realized that all the Bai sisters, regardless of whether they were older or younger, were different. So, he decided to ignore Bai Linlin. But Not long after, Bai Linlin held onto her stomach and screamed, "Jeff, Jeff, my stomach hurts." Jeff looked down and saw that Bai Linlin's lower body was covered in blood. From the looks of it, the child wasn't going to be safe. The child hadn't even formed yet this slut ran out to drink. Didn't she deserve it? "Jeff, save me, it hurts." However, Jeff did not budge an inch as he threw Bai Linlin's hand away and said, "Save you? Who can you blame for taking the child out to drink? Slut, you're the same as your sister, you're also a slut. You don't listen to me, so I can't possibly save you." "You can just stay here and die on your own." After speaking, Jeff left the bedroom, leaving Bai Linlin to sit on the floor and moan in pain. Soon, Baiyu appeared outside Bai Linlin's bedroom door. As she looked at the scene in front of her, her lips curved upwards.
"Sis, save me. Save me."
"Of course I will save you. But I want you to have a taste of this before I save you." Baiyu crossed her arms and stood calmly in front of Bai Linlin's bedroom door. It wasn't until Bai Linlin completely fainted from the pain that Baiyu called the ambulance. Afterwards, Bai Linlin was sent to the hospital. Of course, the child couldn't be saved. But most importantly, it attracted a large number of reporters. And this time, Baiyu did not avoid the questions. She did not avoid them at all. She was no longer the Baiyu that cared about everything. This time, she decided to be herself again. Chapter 775. Baiyu, may I ask if Bai Linlin really had a miscarriage? In that case, did she get pregnant out of wedlock? Can you tell us who the father of the child in Bai Linlin's stomach is? Under normal circumstances, when a reporter asked a sharp question like this, no artist would respond seriously because it was too rude. The reporters never expected that Baiyu would actually respond. So, a lot of the questions were simply asked to create hype. But, facing the black hole of the camera, Baiyu remained silent at first. After a while, she finally said, "That's right, Bai Linlin is indeed pregnant." As soon as the reporters heard this, they looked at each other and asked, "Then, who is the father? How did Bai Linlin have a miscarriage? Why did Bai Linlin have a miscarriage?" Hearing this question, Baiyu suddenly felt it was quite funny. She ruined someone else's family, so she deserved a miscarriage. The reporters had never seen Baiyu like this before. She had always maintained a good image and high EQ in front of the cameras. But for some reason this time, Baiyu did not hold back at all. It was like she had suddenly become a different person. She ruined someone else's family, so she deserved a miscarriage. Even so, Bai Linlin was still her own sister. Didn't Baiyu feel heartache at all? "Miss Bai, can you be more specific? Whose family did Bai Linlin break into?" After hearing this question, Baiyu gestured for the reporter to turn the camera towards Bai Linlin. "Please focus on that person and remember the consequences of ruining someone's family. She's not ruining someone else's family, she's ruining her own sister's family. When I wasn't around, she hooked up with my husband. After I get home, I will announce my divorce. I know, if this matter is announced, I will become a laughingstock in the industry. I don't want to stay here any longer, so I will return to the US. But before that, I hope this adulterous couple will receive the punishment they deserve. Although Bai Linlin is my sister, I don't want to forgive her. Plus, from today onwards, she will no longer be my sister. As for the details of the seduction, I think it's more appropriate for you to ask the person in question. Also, from now on, please don't disturb my life anymore. I admit defeat. I don't want anything. I just want some peace. I hope your reporters can fulfill my wish." After speaking, Baiyu pushed the reporters away and left the hospital with her head held high. "I've wanted to get into trouble for a long time. I've wanted to, after pretending for so long and for so many years, she had had enough. Now this was just the right time." Above all, she was convinced by Tongning. Not only was she a good person or her acting skills, but she had never let anyone down. So she lived an honest life. On the other hand, she had done so many things that she shouldn't have. Now that she was betrayed by Linlin and her husband, she felt she deserved it. Perhaps he had done a lot of things wrong. This time, after she became calm, she felt more relaxed than before. It didn't take long before Bai returned home to pack her luggage. But Jeff suddenly appeared in the living room and tried to stop her. "Darling, what are you doing?" "Bai Linlin is at the hospital. You should go see her." "Wifey, I was wrong." Jeff took a few steps back and knelt down with a thud. "But it's too late," Bai said coldly. "You and that bitch, Bai Linlin, can die together. I'm going to sign the divorce papers." After speaking, Bai dragged her luggage and left the house. Meanwhile, the man behind her kicked the chair beside him in regret. It was over. Everything had come to an end. Bai packed her luggage and immediately returned to the US. But before she left a note for Tongning. Ting received it at Hairue and returned home to hand it to Tongning. It was a strange feeling to receive something from one's enemy. But Tongning still opened the envelope to see what was written inside. In reality, there was nothing else. It simply said, "You've won. You've won fair and square." It seems Bai has suffered a huge blow. The pain of being betrayed by two people is naturally deep. Ting looked at Tongning in seriousness. He was reminded of the time when Tongning was betrayed by Han Yufan. At that time, she was completely reborn and had a fresh start. So, the power of hatred shouldn't be underestimated. Bai is smart. I'm sure she'll get over it soon. After speaking, Tongning put down the envelope. Of course, she was also concerned about Bai Linlin's fate. The hospital was completely surrounded by reporters. Bai Linlin was now isolated and helpless. After waking up, all she could do was stare at the cameras in a daze. The incident had already been exposed. For a woman in her early 20s, being scolded as a mistress by the entire nation was not something an ordinary person could handle. Most importantly, the jerk that hurt the two sisters. The industry sure is messy. Bai is just appearing on a show a few days ago, yet she's about to leave the industry. TSK, to be betrayed by her sister and husband. Just thinking about it makes me feel bad. Bai Linlin is such a bitch. How could she seduce her brother-in-law behind her sister's back? If I was in her position, I would definitely make her beg for death. But didn't Bai always maintain the image of a gentle big sister next door? After she found out about her sister and husband's affair, it seems she couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. The two sisters aren't good people. But Bai Linlin is even worse than Bai. According to Long Jie's understanding, after Bai left Beijing, the jerk Jeff also followed her back to the US. As a result, Bai Linlin became known as a slut. After staying in the hospital for a few days, she disappeared without a trace. It seemed she couldn't handle the pressure, so she went into hiding. A few days later, Long Jie heard that Bai Linlin's mental state was a little abnormal. Of course, it didn't matter if she was pretending or not. She deserved it. In comparison, Chen Xingyan's development was a lot smoother. But not everyone's journey was smooth sailing. Chen Xingyan was lucky. Thanks to Enzaheo's methods, the roles she received were becoming more and more important, and her screen time was also increasing. But compared to Tongning, she still had a long way to go. Let's cancel all of your jobs tonight. Let's sneak out on a date tonight. Seeing that she had worked so hard for so long and hadn't asked for any compensation, Enzaheo agreed. Chen Xingyan was excited as she prepared to leave the house. But as soon as she opened the front door, she was shocked by the man that suddenly appeared. The man that had disappeared since she was 6 years old was currently standing right in front of her. In his hand was a 10-year-old boy. Xingyan. Chen Xingyan didn't understand the situation in front of her. She simply stood there in a daze until Enzaheo held her from behind. How did you find this place? Chapter 776. The filming environment for Survivor was obviously going to be tough. In order to film the film well, apart from taking care of the babies, Tongning spent all her time training her body. As a result, she looked healthier and healthier. In fact, her waistline was clearly visible on her abdomen. After the incident with Baiyu was over, the Beijing entertainment industry returned to normal. While Tongning prepared for her role, she also updated her fans on her recent situation. However, 1 month before the start of filming for Survivor, Mo Ting's ears started ringing due to his long period of fatigue. Mo Ting purposely hid it from Tongning, so Tongning had no idea that Lu Che had taken time off to accompany the baby. So, only Mo Ting knew about his condition. That night, after feeding the babies, Tongning stood behind Mo Ting and told him about Chen Xingyan's father. But for the first time, Mo Ting did not respond. Tongning called out suspiciously, but Mo Ting did not hear a word. He simply leaned against the side of the crib and fell asleep. Seeing this, Tongning's heart ached a little. On the outside, Mo Ting was the decision-maker at Hai Rui. From morning till night, there were countless things waiting for him to decide. But after returning home, he was the father of 2 children, so he had to help take care of them. Tongning fed them once every few hours, but he was always by her side, and never once did he miss out. Was he tired? Tongning couldn't help but put down the babies and approach Mo Ting. However, as soon as she reached out her hand to touch the man's body, Tongning immediately realized that not only had Mo Ting fallen asleep, his body was also burning up. It was winter, and the weather was freezing cold, although the heater was always on at home. Thinking about how Mo Ting kept waking up to take care of Guogua, Tongning felt a little guilty. So, she immediately gave Xia Yuling a phone call and asked her to come over and take care of the babies. After Xia Yuling arrived, the 2 women helped Mo Ting upstairs to his bedroom. Don't just focus on yourself all day. You should also take care of Mo Ting. The babies are important, but does that mean the father isn't? Xia Yuling nagged. From the moment you got married, Xiaoting has never done anything wrong. You should take care of his health too. He's busy with work, but he still has to worry about you when he's home. Okay, Mom. I'll leave the babies in your hands. Take good care of him, Xia Yuling instructed before she ran downstairs to look after her 2 grandsons. Tongning immediately helped Mo Ting change his clothes, wiped his body clean, and cooled him down. But he did not wake up. He was still in a deep sleep. Looking at Mo Ting's sleeping face, Tongning couldn't help but reflect on herself. Mo Ting had already endured so much for her, yet she took it more and more for granted. Since they were husband and wife, she never felt that a man was born to protect and love a woman. There was no love that could last forever just because one party dotes on the other. Girls outside always yearned for handsome and rich men who could dote on them for a lifetime, but feelings were mutual. If one party gave and tolerated the other for a long time, then the relationship would eventually come to an end. Men were also easily tired. The reason why Tongning received so much love from Mo Ting was because she was determined to improve herself and doted on Mo Ting. Mo Ting was well aware that for him, Tongning was willing to give up everything, even her life. Only by doing it for each other could a relationship like this last. In love, there was no room for selfishness. She originally thought, with how tired Mo Ting was, he wouldn't wake up that night. But at 2 a.m., he suddenly moved, waking up Tongning, who was sitting by his bedside. What's wrong? Seeing Tongning was still awake, Mo Ting propped himself up and looked around. After a few seconds, he finally asked, "Why aren't you asleep yet? Did you know you had a fever?" Tongning sat up from the sofa and leaned into Mo Ting's embrace. "Did you know you scared me? I'm fine. It's just that I've been a little busy lately." "Why did you suddenly wake up?" Tongning refused to believe his nonsense. He obviously woke up last night. That's why he had a fever. Normally, at this time, I would be feeding the 2 rascals milk. Mo Ting let out a sigh of relief. Mo Ting let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps it's a biological clock. As soon as it's time, I naturally wake up. After hearing this, Tangning's tears naturally rolled down her cheeks. How could you have so much love for me and our child? Did you know, by acting like this, you're drowning me in your love?
So, the child.
Mom is taking care of it, Tangning replied. Tomorrow, I'll ask Lu Che to arrange a plane ticket to the Maldives. Let's go relax for a few days. I'm fine. You need to rest, Tangning said in seriousness. I'm not discussing this with you. Listen to me. Okay? Mo Ting looked deeply into Tangning's eyes and finally pulled her into his embrace. Give me some time to organize my work before you leave, okay? Okay. Tangning nodded. Sometimes, Tangning couldn't help but wonder if she was too stubborn to make Mo Ting so tired. If she didn't choose to return to filming and instead stayed at home to take care of him and the child, would Mo Ting be a lot more relaxed? So, after the filming of Survivor, Tangning had other plans in mind. Mo Ting lowered his head and looked at Tangning. He noticed there was something different in her expression. But, even so, he could see through her with one glance. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Don't even think about returning to the family, Mo Ting warned as he hooked his arm around Tangning's neck. Of course, Mo Ting was still Mo Ting. Just because he was sick didn't mean he wasn't the domineering and black-bellied king. Tangning looked at him in surprise as she rubbed her cheek against his neck. After confirming that his fever had subsided, she let out a sigh of relief. You are a natural actress. I won't allow you to have any other thoughts. Then, you better promise not to get sick again, Tangning threatened. You should know how much my heart aches for you. After hearing this, Mo Ting hugged Tangning tightly in his arms. Throughout the long years of his life, he had once felt that time was unusually difficult. But ever since he fell in love with Tangning, he felt that even if he was given another 100 years, he wouldn't feel like time was torturous. Going to the Maldives, right? Now that he thought about it, it had been a long time since the couple had gone on a holiday. Of course, if the couple had known that something so big had happened to someone close to them because of their departure, Tangning would not have been in such a rush to leave the country. Her father was back. But Chen Xingyan was not excited at all. Not only had her father remarried, he even had a 10-year-old son with him. In fact, she didn't dare to tell Bai Lihua about this, because, Xingyan, I know I've let you down, but I really need money. Chapter 777. If you need money, why don't you earn it yourself? Chen Xingyan asked. Don't talk to your father like that. And Zaheo leaned against Chen Xingyan's elbow, trying to stop her from saying something wrong and making him feel even worse. Am I wrong? I've always thought that my father went missing when I was 6 years old because he got into an accident and couldn't find his way home. Isn't it good for me to keep thinking like that? Chen Xingyan asked the man that hadn't shown his face for many years with tears in her eyes. In reality, for a person to suddenly disappear without a trace, it was definitely not an accident. This was something that Chen Xingyan had understood many years ago. Xingyan, I know you're a big celebrity and you have money. I beg you, please save your brother. If I had a choice, I would never appear in front of you. The man looked old and wore reading glasses. He held onto the quiet sun in his hands and did not want to let go of him for even a second. Chen Xingyan remained silent. After quite some time, and Zaheo finally said to Father Shen, You can go home for now. Father Shen understood that it was difficult for Chen Xingyan to accept all of this, so he sighed and left the apartment with his son. Why? If you didn't have any expectations for your father, you wouldn't feel so bad. Stay at home. I'll go see if he has a place to stay. Chen Xingyan originally wanted to tell Zaheo not to worry about anything, but as the words reached the tip of her tongue, she couldn't find the words. In the end, she simply said, I'm going to work. After Zaheo escorted the father and son to the hotel, he paid for their room. Father Shen looked at Zaheo. After entering the room, he almost knelt in front of Zaheo. I beg you, please persuade Xingyan to help me. With all due respect, You haven't fulfilled your responsibilities as a father to Xingyan. So, you have no right to ask Xingyan to do anything for you. Father Shen was well aware of this, so he finally stood up. Are you trying to force us to our deaths? How much do you want? Father Shen froze for a moment before he replied, 1 million. This is my son's medical report. I can agree to give you the money, but I have one condition. I want you to leave Xingyan and her mother's sight from now on. As long as I can save my son, I will stay far away from her from now on. Shun father promises. And Zaheo confirmed the medical report and threw it to one side. Actually, he really wanted to say that as long as it was something that could be solved with money, he didn't want to talk to these people about his true feelings. After all, people who could abandon their wives and daughters had no such thing as true feelings. However, he did not know that his generosity this time had led to a very big disaster. The next morning, Tongning and Mo Ting boarded a flight to the Maldives. The babies were temporarily handed over to Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling. Now, the two mothers were as close as sisters, and Bai Lihua often stayed at the Tang family home. The two families were like a family. This time, Chen Xingyan did not tell Tongning about the Shen father because she didn't know how to bring it up. She was also afraid of hurting her mother a second time, so she only mentioned it briefly. Tongning did not take it to heart. So, she had no idea that Chen Xingyan was about to experience such a huge pain. 2 days later, Chen Xingyan was recording a show when a huge car accident happened in Beijing. A middle-aged man was driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, resulting in a 7-car collision. 2 people died on the spot, 3 were seriously injured, and 4 were lightly injured. The news quickly found out the background of the man. His name was Chun Tianhao, and according to the police, he was the father of the popular artist, Chen Xingyan. That day, Zaheo went to discuss Chen Xingyan's endorsement deal, so Little Seven stayed by her side to take care of her. The police then contacted Little Seven. As soon as Chen Xingyan finished her show, Little Seven immediately said, "Something's happened. I'm afraid we'll need to go to the police station." "What's wrong?" Chen Xingyan thought something had happened to Zaheo. But when Little Seven showed the news to Chen Xingyan, she was shocked, but she pretended to be cold. "What does this car accident have to do with me?" "But the police want you to go to the police station immediately. There is an unknown amount of money in Uncle Chen's bank account that the police want to verify." "What kind of money?" Chen Xingyan had no idea that Zaheo had given money to Father Chen, so she looked at him confusedly. After arriving at the police station, as soon as Chen Xingyan stepped into the lobby, she was grabbed by the victim's family member. "Give me back my parents' lives. Give me back my brother's life." Although Chen Xingyan understood how they felt, what did this matter have to do with her? "I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with me." "How could it have nothing to do with you? You're the daughter of the culprit. I've lost my father since I was 6 years old. All these years I've been an orphan. What do you want me to take responsibility for?" Chen Xingyan asked. No shouting is allowed in the police station. Chen Xingyan, come in for questioning. Seeing the commotion outside, the police stepped out and yelled as they led Chen Xingyan into the interrogation room. "Do you know what happened to your father?" the police asked. "I've heard that your father contacted you a few days ago." "I have no father." After a short pause, she explained, "That day, he suddenly asked me for money and asked me to save his son, but I ignored him." "But what do we do with the money that was transferred from Zaheo's account?" the police officer asked. Chen Xingyan received the receipt from the police and confirmed that it was indeed from Zaheo. There was no mistake. This idiot. Why was he cleaning up after her behind her back again? Did you know? Because of this money, Chen Tianhao bought a luxury car, drank, gambled, took drugs, and got into fights. There was nothing he didn't do. And because of this money, he had the capital to commit crimes. He bought drugs, drove drunk, and harmed 6 families at the same time. After hearing this, Chen Xingyan's eyes grew wide in shock. She immediately said to the police, "That's right, I asked my manager to transfer the money to him because I didn't want him to bother me anymore. But I simply transferred the money. Did I break the law? In the end, I thought he did it to save someone. I had no idea that he had other intentions. The police glanced at Chen Xingyan and shook his head helplessly. I'm afraid your conscience will never be at peace for the rest of your life. Chen Xingyan's tears immediately rolled down her face. But she quickly wiped them away and gave Bai Lihua a phone call. In the end, she simply said to the police, "Listen to the police." Chapter 778. Chen Xingyan's father is worse than a pig. A person like him should be sentenced to death. With this, it's impossible for Chen Xingyan to continue in the entertainment industry. It's so embarrassing to have a father like this. He's going to be a stain on her for the rest of her life. He took drugs and drove drunk. A person like this should be torn to pieces. If even her father is like this, it's obvious that Chen Xingyan isn't a good person. Chen Xingyan sure is unlucky. I heard that her father went missing when she was 6 years old. It wasn't easy for him to reappear, but he ruined his daughter's future. That's right. Chen Xingyan knew that because of this incident, she could no longer continue in the entertainment industry. In fact, she couldn't drag Zhehao and Mo Ting down with her. So, after the police finished their interrogation, Chen Xingyan walked out of the room and bowed apologetically in front of the family. I apologize on behalf of my father. I hope that you can forgive me. I will do my best to make up for the harm that your family has suffered, even though I know that material things can't save a precious life.
Don't even think about it.
Don't expect me to forgive you.
No.
Chen Xingyan replied. I'm not going to beg for mercy on behalf of my father. I will leave everything to the law. I simply want to apologize to everyone for what I did wrong. The family remained agitated. They even approached Chen Xingyan, tugging on her clothes and slapping her across the face. At this time, Zhehao rushed over and immediately separated Chen Xingyan from the crowd. He then shielded her behind him. Chen Xingyan is also a victim. She lost her father when she was 6 years old. Now that she's finally reunited with him, the first thing you do is ask for money. If you want to cause trouble, you should be looking for the culprit. The family gradually calmed down. Meanwhile, Chen Xingyan left the police station under Zhehao's protection. I will find a lawyer. No need, Chen Xingyan replied. Take me to Hyatt Regency. I want to be alone. Xingyan, I will never appear in the entertainment industry again, and I will never be the superstar that you think I am. With this stain on my past, I will forever be the daughter of a murderer, Chen Xingyan said in seriousness. So, let's cancel our contract. What do you mean? And Zhehao's expression suddenly turned serious. I want to break up with you, Chen Xingyan said with a sob. Chen Xingyan, I'm serious. I don't want to stay in this industry anymore. I'm really tired. I want to go abroad with my mother. I want to find a place where there's no one around. Chen Xingyan said as she held back her tears. And you can't give up everything in front of you to leave with me. So let's break up. He never expected that Chen Xingyan would break up at a time like this. You're just tired. I'm more serious than ever. Chen Xingyan looked at Zhehao with determination and said, I want to break up. There's no turning back. Even little Seven, who was driving, couldn't help but break when she heard this, much less Zhehao. Chen Xingyan, let me tell you, we promise not to give up so easily. Yet you're going to go back on your word. Yes, Chen Xingyan replied with a trembling voice. Little Seven, stop. And Zhehao did not force her. He remained calm on the surface, but as soon as Little Seven stopped the car, he immediately got out of the car and left without looking back. Xingyan, why are you doing this? Little Seven asked helplessly. Chen Xingyan couldn't hold back her tears as she said, You don't understand. And Zhehao had already done enough for her. This time, he simply gave her $1 million to clean up after her mess. If Nzaheo was to find out that the money he transferred out was used by the Shun father to commit crimes, he would never be able to live in peace for the rest of his life. Since someone was going to get hurt, she was going to take responsibility for it. And Nzaheo was ambitious and capable, while she simply wanted to be a stunt double. So, their value was completely different. Above all, the public couldn't know that Nzaheo was the one who transferred the $1 million. Otherwise, it would be a huge blow to Nzaheo. She knew that she was still young, but it didn't mean that she couldn't take responsibility. After returning home, the first thing Qin Xingyan did as soon as she saw Bai Lihua was pounce on her and burst into tears. "Mom, it's okay. My daughter has grown up. It's okay. Honestly, it's not a big deal. We can simply go door to door and apologize and beg for forgiveness. It's not like it's my daughter's fault. Xingyan, you've made Mom proud. We can't drag President Mo and Ning Jie into this," Qin Xingyan said as she sobbed. "Okay, we won't drag anyone into this. We'll take responsibility ourselves." Bai Lihua never expected Qin Xingyan to be so brave. This gave her a lot of strength, so the mother and daughter agreed to take responsibility together. At this moment, they were each other's strongest support. After alighting from the car, Nzaheo headed straight for the police station. He wanted to know what had happened to cause Qin Xingyan's attitude to change so much. Seeing that the person in question had arrived, the police repeated everything that they had told Qin Xingyan to Nzaheo. In the end, Nzaheo found out why Qin Xingyan had broken up with him. This girl seemed to have grown up all of a sudden. She shouldered everything on her own. In the end, Nzaheo said to the police, "I lent you a fruit knife so that you could peel some fruit, but you ended up using it to kill someone. Should I take responsibility? I did indeed transfer $1 million to Qin Tianhao, but I don't think I should take responsibility because we were also victims." Today, Qin Tianhao used $1 million to kill someone, and the police came looking for us. What if he made a huge contribution? Would the police give us a reward? Lastly, when Qin Tianhao swindled the $1 million, he presented us with the child's medical report. As a police officer, you are more adept at using morality. But I'm sorry, neither Qin Xingyan nor I will take responsibility for this. Plus, the main focus of this case was drug abuse and drunk driving. I'm sorry, but this money was obtained legally, so we do not need to take responsibility. That's all. After speaking, Nzaheo left the police station. He knew that at this time, Qin Xingyan was focused on protecting him and would not listen to anything he had to say. She was indeed the dumbest idiot in the world. Because Qin Xingyan knew that Nzaheo was willing to go bankrupt for her and was willing to do even more for her. So, Nzaheo did not rush to contact Qin Xingyan. Instead, he went to look for information on the victim. To prevent the mother and daughter from getting hurt, he was going to be very busy from now on. As soon as Tongning and Mo Ting received the news from overseas, they decided not to take a few days off and rushed back to Beijing. Chapter 779. After returning to China, Tongning originally wanted to have a chat with Qin Xingyan. But the mother and daughter did not want to cause trouble for Mo Ting and Tongning, so they went into hiding. Why would they hide from something like this? After all, it wasn't their fault. Because of this, Tongning specifically visited Nzaheo's apartment. However, as soon as she entered the love nest where the couple had once lived together, she couldn't help but sigh. It doesn't feel good to be abandoned, does it? Aha! Nzaheo was sitting on the sofa drinking wine. He was dressed in a set of gray home clothes and looked relaxed. But I understand her. Honestly, she doesn't want to drag me down. But the truth is, I didn't handle this matter well. In that case, what do you plan to do? Tongning asked as she sat opposite Nzaheo. I can't let her lose her career as an actress. Even if she wants to quit, she needs to do it on her own accord. I can't let her do it because of pressure from the outside world, and Zaheo replied as he sipped on his wine. We have watched Xingyan get to where she is today. You played a huge part in turning her from a naive little girl to the person she is today. Tongning stood up and walked over to Zaheo. She then patted him on the shoulder. I originally thought you would give up. But, seeing you like this, I'm relieved. Tongning, I actually need Mo Ting to show his attitude. He has never publicly acknowledged Xingyan's identity, but if he doesn't want to, I won't force him, and Zaheo said. Although Xingyan doesn't need it, she needs power at the moment. Don't worry, I'll make arrangements. After speaking, Tongning left in Zaheo's apartment. Sometimes the world was just so unfair. You were kind and innocent, and you didn't think you had done anything illegal, but because of your family, you had to bear a burden that you couldn't bear. How many people in the world were silently suffering from the pain of their family? Tongning couldn't let Qin Xingyan suffer like this. Even if Qin Xingyan and that man had an irresistible blood relationship. But what did she do wrong? After returning home, Tongning discussed with Mo Ting. We need to find Xingyan as soon as possible. She shouldn't be the one to lower herself. Most importantly, Mo Ting's mother was also involved. How could he let Bai Lihua bear the consequences of the jerk's actions? So, Mo Ting gave Lu Che a phone call. Immediately find out where my mother and Qin Xingyan are. After you find them, bring them back. Chen Tianhao had killed a total of 2 people, a middle-aged man and a young man. As for the other 2 people that were seriously injured, one of them had a special identity. He was the son of a Beijing government official. He had gone out with his friends to play, but no one expected such a tragedy to happen. Chen Tianhao was definitely not going to escape this time. But Bai Lihua and Qin Xingyan, who had been dragged down by him, had to face reality. Qin Xingyan and Bai Lihua, Qin Xingyan Li Xingyan 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 Yan Li, Tian Xingyan and Xingyan to Xingyan Xingyan Qin to Xingyan, they were to Xingyan Qin Li Qin, Li Qin, A Yan, they.
You they, Li you.
I. Yang, T, Xau. Don't let my husband die with grievances. This was the middle-aged man's wife. She was extremely agitated. As soon as she saw Qin Xingyan, she grabbed her by the collar and began to hit her like she did at the police station. But Qin Xingyan did not retaliate. Madam, if you want to hit someone, hit me. Don't hit my daughter. Stop pretending to be merciful. Why are you putting on an act? Get out of here. Get out. The middle-aged man's wife kicked the 2 out. From the looks of it, it was impossible for them to forgive her. Of course, Qin Xingyan understood how they felt. But what could she do? If she could bring someone back from the dead, she would be willing to sacrifice her life for it. Afterwards, Qin Xingyan and Bai Lihua went to another home. Of course, they received the same treatment. There was no difference. But they still insisted on going to the hospital to visit the other 4 seriously injured patients. One of them was the official's son. Did you think that buying a few things and apologizing would make up for the loss of my friend's life? Let me tell you, it's impossible. I want you to carry this guilt for the rest of your lives. We're not going to plead for that person. We simply want to show our sincerity, Bai Lihua said patiently. There's no need. Unless you kneel down, don't expect me to forgive you. The man was sitting in a hospital bed with either bandages or a cast on his body. His family was even more exaggerated as they called the media to expose him. Look, this is the idol of your industry. His father is a murderer. A person like this needs to be dealt with seriously. His entire family should pay the price. Are you saying that if we kneel down, you'll forgive us? Kneel down first. The family yelled at Bai Lihua and Bai Lihua. Although Bai Lihua and Qin Xingyan were already prepared to be humiliated when it actually happened, they still felt angry and wronged. All sorts of emotions intertwined with each other. But even so, Bai Lihua still wanted to kneel down. But at this time, a man suddenly appeared behind her and held her up. Auntie, please stand up straight. Qin Xingyan and Bai Lihua looked at Zaheo in shock. They never expected that he would be willing to get involved in this mess. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't need to apologize to anyone. What do you mean I didn't do anything wrong? Her father killed someone. The family member's voice was sharp and shrill. But Enziheo turned around and replied, "As you know, her father killed someone. Doesn't she need to pay him back for killing someone?" "That's right. She doesn't need to pay him back. There's no law in this country that states that the son should pay for the sins of the father. Whoever hit someone will naturally pay the price. She didn't do anything wrong, so I can't allow her to be humiliated and trampled on like this." And Zaheo's voice was powerful. "We deeply sympathize with the shock and pain that you've suffered. We will give you our sincerest apologies and compensation, but we will not accept personal attacks and insults. After all, the mother and daughter are also victims. Her father went missing when she was 6 years old. As soon as he returned, he ran into someone. Who can she complain to?" The family member glared at Enziheo, but did not say another word. At this time, Luce followed Mo Ting's instructions and found the mother and daughter to take them back to Hyatt Regency. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.